Chapter 1922. There were many speculations, but so far, there was no unified and certain statement. All they knew was that it only appeared after the Mount Tai incident. There is a crack, and this thing was picked up from inside. Zixing looked at Long Shiruo with a solemn expression. We could only reach a dilapidated ruin, with traces left after the battle everywhere. In the area that we could explore, we did not see any corpses. The whole place seemed to be empty. What we saw was a place called the Southern Heavenly Gate. The Southern Sky Gate, the legendary gate of the Immortal Palace. Kelowna Shinryu did not speak. She just looked at Zixing blankly, as if to distinguish the truth in her words. Lord Dragon King, do you think that Zixing is making up a story? Zixing suddenly asked. Long Shiruo shook her head and said indifferently, I'm just curious why you encountered such a thing. Zixing was a little confused by this question. Is there anything wrong with this? Long Shiruo shook her head again. At this time, she had taken the fragment in her hand again. She carefully stroked the engraving on it. Do you want me to continue to explore this space suspected to be the Immortal Palace with you? Fengdu Ghost City. Zixing suddenly said the name of a place and said meaningfully, I know the origin of Fengdu Ghost City. Lord Dragon King. Long Shiruo's expression changed slightly, but she suddenly smiled and said, You little girl, it seems that you have done your homework. Then the question is, why do you think I will agree? I hope Lord Dragon King can consider it. At this time, Zixing bowed in front of Kelowna Shinryu. She did not raise her head. This is a very suitable place for us to live. Today's world is not suitable for us to continue to live. Even in this era of spiritual qi, I'm afraid it will only be a flash in the pan. You said a flash in the pan? Kelowna Shinryu narrowed her eyes. Purple Star still did not raise her head. She only said softly, Purple Star, after all, is Starlord Covetous Wolf's sacrifice. Purple Star can also see some of the astronomical phenomena. I know that the clans of the four divine beasts all have the intention to invite Lord Dragon Monarch, hoping to obtain an autonomous region for the demon clan in this era. Compared to their request, the greedy wolf clan only wishes to obtain a place where they can struggle at death's door, just like City Master Zhao's Ghost City. Since Lord Dragon Monarch can help City Lord Xiao to build the Fengdu Ghost City from the broken underworld, then I helped Xiao Xingma just to settle down the millions of ghosts in the divine Great Land who have nowhere to go. Long Shiruo said in a deep voice, When the underworld is destroyed, thousands of wandering ghosts have no place to settle down, let alone reincarnate. After accumulating for a long time, it will only lead to a disaster in Kelowna. How can it be compared to your clan? She seemed to have expected such an answer. At this time, she was not in a hurry, but her attitude was more humble. Lord Dragon Monarch, if you can build a place suitable for the greedy wolf clan to live in this space that is suspected to be the Immortal Palace, it will also be suitable for the other demon clans to live in. Since it is difficult for us to integrate into the human race, how about we withdraw from this era? Just like the so-called inhuman realm in the West. Lord Dragon Monarch is the true dragon of the countless living beings in the divine land. Lord Dragon Monarch needs to follow the general trend. But as long as we haven't all been annihilated, aren't we considered one of the countless living beings? Lord Dragon Monarch, please consider Zixing's request. Kelowna Shinryu pondered and did not speak. Time passed in silence just like that. After a long time, Long Shiruo sighed and said, Speaking of which, this is only your wishful thinking. Zixing, the young master of the greedy wolf clan, slightly moved his eyes. It seemed that from this sentence, the disappointment on his face could not be concealed. Whether it is a suitable place to live or not is not up to you alone. Long Shiruo immediately said expressionlessly, Building an inhuman realm of the East, do you think it is a child playing with sand? Without a perfect plan, how can it be built just because you want to? Do you know how long it took to create the inhuman domain? Do you know how much effort the Magician Association spent on it? Lord Dragon Monarch, you mean. Zixing's mood, which had fallen to the bottom, was lifted in an instant. Long Shira rolled her eyes and said, "After the summit meeting, I will go on a field trip." The young master of the Greedy Wolf clan was ecstatic and was about to bow down. But Long Shirua stretched out her hand and sighed, "Have you ever thought that I won't consider it at all?" "I know Lord Dragon Monarch won't," Zixing said softly. "I know that after the founding of the new era, there was a plan to wipe out the demon clan. It was Lord Long who resisted behind the scenes." Long Shirua didn't say anything, just glared and said, "If you want me to go on a field trip, you have to pay for the trip. Food and lodging expenses. Appearance fees are calculated separately." These are all reasonable, right? Probably. Mo Xiaofei followed Song Haoran to a rather elegant quiet room, where he saw a masked woman in white. The face of the masked woman could be vaguely seen through the gauze. She knelt and waited as if she had been waiting for a long time. When the door was opened, the eyes of the masked woman were focused on Mo Xiaofei's body or his face. If it weren't for the existence of the restrictive spell, Mo Xiaofei would be able to hear the masked woman murmuring such a sentence with his super hearing. So similar. There is such a similarity in the world. Song Haoran walked in first, followed by Mo Xiaofei. When they came to the masked woman, Song Haoran said casually, "I've brought him to you." The masked woman nodded, then said indifferently, "Okay, you can leave and continue to do your stance outside." The young master of the Song family suddenly widened his eyes, pointing at himself with an inconceivable expression. "My princess, are you so greedy? Did I not serve you well enough?" Saying some frivolous words with an aggrieved expression. This guy was also a talent, right? Mo Xiaofei dared not to speak at this time. The masked woman raised her head slightly, glancing at Song Haoran. Young Master Song shrugged. "I'll be outside, call me if you need anything." Before leaving, Song Haoran patted Mo Xiaofei's shoulder gently, winking and whispering, "Little brother, watch your words. Don't talk nonsense." Mo Xiaofei still didn't understand the situation at this time, but he saw that the masked woman wanted to see him. However, he couldn't remember if he had ever crossed paths with this masked woman. If he had never seen her, why would she look for him? Looking at the masked woman who was staring at him strangely, Mo Xiaofei said tentatively, I'll sit down?" "You sit down," the masked woman said in a low voice, seeming to be hesitant. Mo Xiaofei sat down slowly. He originally planned to sit cross-legged, but when he saw the masked woman's straight kneeling posture, he immediately changed to the same posture as her. But he was not used to this sitting posture, so it was a little awkward after a while. The masked woman didn't speak, just looking at him. "Excuse me. Why do you want to see me?" Mo Xiaofei couldn't help asking. "How old are you this year?" the masked woman suddenly asked. Me?" Mo Xiaofei subconsciously opened his mouth, thinking for a while. "Almost 18. Do you have any relatives at home?" the masked woman asked again. Mo Xiaofei was a little vigilant. Why do you ask this?" The masked woman shook her head, saying indifferently, "I just want to find some topics." "Isn't this what you want? Don't let this place be too quiet." But she didn't ask about his relatives directly, did she? "You haven't answered me. Why do you want to see me?" Mo Xiaofei came straight to the point. "Do I know you?" "No, we haven't met before today," the masked woman said softly. "Then? You look very similar to an old friend of mine." The masked woman thought for a while. "So I'm interested in you. You don't need to panic. I won't hurt you. I just want to talk to you. If this makes you feel embarrassed, I'll ask Song Haoran to send you back." "That's not necessary." Mo Xiaofei shook his head, asking curiously, "Do I really look like the old friend you mentioned?" "Like when he was young." The masked woman nodded, "But he still looks a little immature. His eyes can hold everything. He sounds like a very powerful person." Mo Xiaofei squeezed his eyes with his fingers awkwardly. "Does he look like this?" The masked woman didn't say a word. Emo Xiaofei's awkwardness turned into a hollow laugh. Well, I'm just kidding. You can be more confident, the masked woman suddenly said. Emo Xiaofei was stunned. The masked woman said indifferently, What's your name? Emo Xiaofei. Okay, I'll keep it in mind. The topic seemed to have stopped here. The masked woman didn't say anything but kept staring at Emo Xiaofei. As time went by, she even seemed to be absent-minded. She seemed to be immersed in memories. This was the only feeling Emo Xiaofei had at this time. So be it. Maybe she really thought of an old friend when she saw me and wanted to reminisce. I'll help if I can. I don't have anything important to do anyway. Emo Xiaofei began to calm down. He calmly accepted the masked woman's gaze. He didn't have many thoughts in his mind at this time. However, the quiet room was too quiet. Emo Xiaofei unconsciously felt a little sleepy. His eyes gradually became hazy. Behind the veil of the masked woman, there seemed to be a sense of familiarity to that faintly discernible face. His eyes gradually darkened. Chuyang. Like a name. Who? Like his head suddenly sank. Emo Xiaofei quickly raised his head, then looked around nervously. He was still in the quiet room and the masked woman was kneeling in front of him. Emo Xiaofei quickly wiped his lips, saying embarrassedly, I'm sorry. I slept too late last night. Unconsciously. I've been sleeping for a long time? Just a moment. The masked woman said indifferently, It's late. You go outside and find Song Haoran. He will send you back. Okay. Emo Xiaofei nodded subconsciously. He really wanted to escape from this strange silence, especially since the masked woman gave him an indescribable weird feeling. She said he looked like her old friend when he was young. Who could he look like? Everyone said he looked like his dad. Could it be that this masked woman knew his dad? But his dad was just an injured and retired firefighter. There was nothing special about him. Emo Xiaofei pushed open the door of the quiet room with a head full of doubts. Suddenly, he felt something and turned around. He saw the masked woman who had closed her eyes slowly opened her eyes at this time. What's the matter? That. Emo Xiaofei hesitated. I'll leave my phone number to the uncle outside. If you still want to remember your old friend, I'm fine with it. It's a pleasure to help others. Well, goodbye. She watched Emo Xiaofei leave until he finally disappeared. Then she took off the veil on her face, saying softly, Not like, but also like. Not long after, Song Haoran directly entered the quiet room. He didn't personally send Emo Xiaofei back to the courtyard where the greedy wolf tribe lived. It was Emo Xiaofei who refused, saying he could go back by himself. What's so special about this kid that you want to see him in person? Song Haoran asked directly. Help me do one thing. The masked woman said indifferently. Say it. Song Haoran shrugged. You know I can't refuse you. Help me keep an eye on this Emo Xiaofei. The masked woman thought for a while. Don't let him know. I just want to know something about his life. Life? Song Haoran looked quite surprised. Then he smiled. I always feel that there's something special about him that attracts you. The young master of Song family directly squatted in front of the masked woman, getting close to her. The masked woman remained motionless. Song Haoran reached out to touch the veil of the masked woman, as if he was going to lift the veil in the next moment. Through the veil, he gently scanned her face. This is the first time I've seen your eyes like this. You're too close. The masked woman said indifferently. I still want to get closer. Song Haoran chuckled, future. The masked woman's eyes turned cold. She waved her hand quickly. Even though she couldn't use her strength, she still had her fighting skills. This move was extremely fierce. Facing this fierce move, Song Haoran slightly raised the corner of his mouth, directly grabbing the masked woman's wrist. A hint of surprise appeared in the eyes of the masked woman. The young master of the Song family directly let go of the other's wrist at this time. He blinked and said, You can't always be beaten up, right? Song Haoran, how dare you? I'll be outside. Young Master Song said abruptly while stepping back, Call me, my princess. It was not until the eldest son of the Song family left the quiet room that the masked princess of the Qin kingdom slowly exhaled. She gently rubbed her wrist and said in a low voice, "If the world is in chaos, you will definitely be the demon star who brings disaster to the world." When Emo Xiaofei returned to Zixing's residence, Long Shirua had persistently disguised herself and waited. Long Shirua didn't even ask where Emo Xiaofei went. She looked preoccupied. The master and disciple didn't say anything and just left Song Dynasty Hotel. The agents of the administration didn't dare to stop them when they entered the door. Naturally, they didn't dare to stop them now. They just acted as if nothing had happened. "By the way, master, what's Chu Yang?" In the arranged car, Emo Xiaofei suddenly asked. "Chu Yang." Kelowna's Shinryu was startled. "What Chu Yang?" "It means literally the sun in the morning. Are you a monk?" "Like a name." Emo Xiaofei shook his head. "It's fine if master doesn't know. It's not important." Long Shirua shook her head and said casually, "In ancient times, there was a saying that the period before the winter solstice to the beginning of spring was Chu Yang, which is the so-called birth of the sun." "I see." Emo Xiaofei nodded. "In addition, there's another metaphor." Kelowna's Shinryu glanced at Emo Xiaofei and said meaningfully, "Sometimes it's also compared to the Golden Age." Chapter 1923. When Miss Song of the Song family came to the meeting place, she knew it would be like this. The meeting place had been booked by Zhong Luoyue. Zhong Luoyue was the only one sitting in the restaurant at this time. She arranged a whole team of people to stand outside the door. Song Ying also asked her team of bodyguards to stand outside the door. The two sides were clearly opposite each other. She flipped her hair and walked in with her bag. Meeting alone like this, there was no problem at all, right? It was just that when these two princesses of noble families met, there was no hint of affection to be found. Instead, it was as if gunpowder was sprinkled all around them. When they were young, Zhong Luoyue studied abroad, and Song Ying later studied in the same college, which was the old college in Britain where Boss Luo went to study. Zhong Luoyue entered the college earlier than Song Ying, and was the leader of the student union. Excellent women always appreciated excellent women. This saying was completely wrong when it came to these two princesses, who were almost the same in all aspects. It was as if they were born to be enemies. It was also possible that they had already been enemies in their previous lives. During the days when they were studying, it could be said that they were quite noisy. Later, Zhong Luoyue graduated, and Miss Song of the Song family finally won the war. As the saying goes, the survivor is the king. She won after getting rid of her opponent. "You called me out from afar, don't tell me you just want to see me?" Song Ying sat down directly. In fact, she and Zhong Luoyue should have met once, even earlier. Originally, at the beginning of the year, there should have been a world underground gambling competition. For this competition, Song Ying had gone to invite the legendary god of gamblers to come back. However, after the Mount Tai incident, the world's abnormal events increased, to the point that it had to be announced to the world. Therefore, the gambling competition was suspended indefinitely. "What's wrong? As a senior, I want to catch up with a junior. Is there a problem?" Zhong Luoyue smiled and said, "If you do this, I will feel that the years we spent together on campus are quite cheap." "Cheap? It's already good enough that I'm not whoring you for free." Song Ying sneered. She was the type to charge around recklessly. This princess of the Song dynasty wasn't interested in too many overt schemes. With the support of the Song family behind her, she had always been very flamboyant. This kind of rich and powerful young lady would often suffer a lot of losses, but she really couldn't withstand the strength and luck of the Song family. Whether it was old Master Song or Song Howren, they were all protecting this precious daughter of the Song family from behind. She was unruly, but not willful. She finished her studies early and returned to take care of the small family business. Moreover, she was well organized and lived a more realistic life than many people. Zhong Luoyue was different. She was also a young lady of a wealthy family, but the environment she grew up in determined that she could either be a family vase with no thoughts of her own or be the current Tang dynasty empress. Only by stepping on her two brothers could she obtain freedom of body and mind. She couldn't stand Song Ying's flamboyance, and Song Ying couldn't stand her depth. It was as if they were really enemies in their previous lives, and then fate arranged for them to meet again in this life. The two young ladies who knew each other very well didn't exchange too many pleasantries. Song Ying even planned to ridicule the other party, but unexpectedly, Zhong Luoyue didn't have any intention of fighting back. "I really just want to see you," she said. Do you have something to say?" Song Ying was startled and looked at the other party in surprise. "Drink with me. I want to drink some wine today," Zhong Luoyue said softly. "Do you think I'll drink with you just because you said so?" "Why?" Song Ying sneered. Zhong Luoyue narrowed her eyes and said, "Because in so many years, you have never beaten me in drinking. Is that enough?" "Wine server," the young lady of the Song family exploded. "I hate this bitch so much." Fortunately, it was only because they were born to dislike each other, and not because they were fighting over men. Otherwise, I would have shot her. In fact, she even brought the gun and hid it in her skirt. Drink. It was unknown how much time had passed, but there were many empty red wine bottles on the table. The young lady of the Song family was now drunk, her eyes were hazy, and her stomach was surging. She held a wine bottle in one hand and pressed the other hand on the table, staring at Zhong Luoyue like a tiger eyeing its prey. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that Zhong Luoyue was still a girl who didn't blush and didn't panic after drinking so much wine. When did this bitch become so good at drinking? Song Ying shook her head hard. She was supposed to be the queen of the school's prom every year during the carnival. You can't drink anymore? It feels like it's just the beginning. Zhong Luoyue shook the wine glass in her hand and smiled. If you can't drink anymore, let someone send you back. I don't care. Song Ying looked up and stared at Zhong Luoyue like a tigress, but soon she knocked her head on the table. How could a normal person hold on after drinking so much wine? When Zhong Luoyue saw this, he stood up and strode slowly to Song Ying's side with his fingers on the long table. She looked at Song Ying's wine-red neck and stroked it gently with her fingers. Then, she slowly bent down. "This is a really good place," she whispered in her ear. "The truth is bitten down like this. When you wake up, your expression should be very interesting." But there was no way to open the fangs of a vampire. Zhong Luoyue smiled with a little pity. So this was a really good place. Even if she wanted to be a vampire, she couldn't do it. In fact, she forced herself to get up in the morning. It was similar to humans staying up late. She didn't know if it was because of the anti-magic effect, but she was surprised to find that her dislike for the daytime seemed to be reduced a lot. Deadhead, you're a deadhead. It's been so long, the phone." These were Song Ying's unclear words in her sleep. However, Zhong Luoyue could hear it. He could even hear the indignation contained in these dreams. What kind of man can make the princess of the Song dynasty forget herself like this? Zhong Luoyue seemed to be interested, and directly sat on the table in front of Song Ying. She knew Song Ying's style. During the years in the academy, Song Ying had many girlfriends, but never stopped a man from getting close to her. Of course, Zhong Luoyue didn't think Song Ying didn't like men. It was just that it was difficult for men to break into her heart. Suddenly, Zhong Luoyue's memory flashed in her mind. She remembered that she met a young man who attended the banquet together with Song Ying in the manner of the god of gamblers who lived in seclusion in South America. There were many men around Song Ying, and it was very common in the academy, but Zhong Luoyue had only seen one man who could make the little princess of the Song family unable to do anything and even feel like she was being led by the nose. Of course, that was when she and Song Ying were in the same place. At other times, Zhong Luoyue wouldn't know clearly, but it was enough for Zhong Luoyue to guess something. That person. Zhong Luoyue tried hard to recall the appearance of the mysterious young man beside Song Ying, but she still couldn't remember his appearance. But in her memory, many things seemed to have happened between them in the manner of the god of gamblers. There was always an indescribable feeling in her heart. It was a very familiar feeling. Zhong Luoyue looked at the drunk Song Ying. She really didn't have any other thoughts today. She just wanted to see an old friend and see what kind of attitude she, who was now used to the identity of a vampire, would have towards the people she used to know. This kind of attitude couldn't be imagined by imagination. Only by personally experiencing it could one understand the subtleties of it. She didn't see Song Ying as an enemy now. She didn't even have the thought of suppressing her. Instead, she felt it was quite interesting to see Song Ying gnashing her teeth at her. Maybe after 30 or 50 years, Song Ying would have aged, and she would still be the same. This could only be a memory fragment that was worth recalling. I am not a human anymore. Zhong Luoyue laughed at herself. She picked up the spoon and gently tapped the wine glass on the table. Soon, a man came in. The man was quite respectful. Inform Miss Song's bodyguards to come in and take Miss Song back, Zhong Luoyue said indifferently. Tell Miss Song that I'm very happy with today's party. Yes. Very quickly, a group of bodyguards came over in fear and trepidation and carefully helped the little princess of the Song family leave. Although they were very curious about the background of this beautiful woman with an incomparably strong aura, to actually be able to drink with their little princess, they still did not dare to ask, and hurriedly sent Song Ying away. After Song Ying left, Zhong Luoyue went into the washroom alone, saying that she wanted to touch up her makeup and asked people to wait outside. At this time, only the sound of the faucet could be heard, and Zhong Luoyue had already leaned over the basin, vomiting. After a long time, Zhong Luoyue raised her head with a pale face. The body of a vampire was indeed unable to digest food other than blood and blood products. Zhong Luoyue wiped her lips, leaning against the basin, slowly sliding down and sitting down, muttering to herself, in the future, this kind of boring competition should be banned. It turned out that it was not easy for a vampire to get drunk. When she came out of the washroom, Zhong Luoyue's face had returned to normal. The people she brought out today were actually members of the Magician Association. Of course, they weren't the noble magicians of the Magician Association, but the followers or apprentices of the magicians. In fact, Zhong Luoyue's identity was similar. In the eyes of the members of the Magician Association, she was the personal attendant of the last disciple of the Radiance Tower, Miss Elizabeth. But this personal attendant's status was obviously several levels higher. Miss Yu, we should go back, or else the people from the Kelowna administration will come to find us. We only have half a day to go out. One of the followers of the magicians suggested. There is still some time. Zhong Luoyue shook her head and said, I want to walk around the riverside. I can go by myself, you guys go buy things for your respective masters. Okay, Miss Yu, be careful. They didn't have the obligation to protect Miss Yu all the time, but within the scope of the permitted scope and friendship, they gave her some convenience to tighten the relationship between them. They parted here. Speaking of which, when the two female bodyguards helped Song Ying to the underground parking lot, a small interlude happened. It was like this. The two female bodyguards supported Miss Song while the other bodyguards went to get the car. However, when they were about to help Song Ying get on the car, a truck suddenly lost control and rushed over. It looked like they were about to crash into each other, but the truck driver suddenly twisted the steering wheel at the last moment and narrowly avoided the collision. But the sudden twist of the truck seemed to have knocked someone down. The bodyguards clearly saw a figure being hit, but when the truck driver got off to check, he didn't find anyone injured on the ground. The truck driver didn't want to cause any trouble, so he hurriedly drove away. As for the bodyguards, they didn't care and hurriedly sent Miss Song Ying away. What they didn't know was that after they left, a figure directly climbed out from the other side of the wall. It was a tall and thin man. At this moment, the tall and thin man's neck was severely crooked to one side, however. He held his head with both hands and straightened it. Patting the dust off his body, he appeared to be deep in thought. After a while, another man arrived in the parking lot and quickly came to the side of the tall and thin man. Failed. Shaking his head, the lanky male replied, "Originally, I wanted to take him away, but a truck suddenly rushed out. Aren't dimensional observers supposed to be plagued with misfortune and die young? Why does this guy seem to have such good luck? I haven't been able to find a good opportunity to act recently. I'm considering whether to directly appear and snatch her away. Maybe it's just a coincidence. If we directly appear and snatch her away, I'm afraid we'll be beaten up into a hornet's nest before we even touch her. This forbidden space is too strange." The latter man waved his hand. "Let's not talk about this first. I can sense a companion nearby." The tall and thin man frowned. "Companion? Who?" "It seems to be Wolfgang," the latter man casually said. Furthermore, he sent out a distress signal. Distress signal? The tall and thin man couldn't help but be stunned. What happened? How would I know? I'm not familiar with Wolfgang and have only seen him a few times. Should I save him? I can't talk to this crazy guy. He also doesn't like us, right? The tall and thin man shrugged. Furthermore, we still have the throne mission. Besides, Wolfgang is on the side of Archimedes. That means... The latter man shrugged. The tall and thin man said indifferently, "Let him fend for himself." Japan, a certain airport. A young man in a suit and leather shoes with gold-rimmed glasses came to the door of the smoking area. He saw a child of about 10 years old squatting in front of the door, reading a comic book. The young man frowned. He didn't understand why his boss, Teacher Cha Tian, would add 2 more people at the last minute. Furthermore, one of them was a child. "We're about to board the plane. Go in and ask your guardian to come out." How troublesome! The young man abnormally hated the smell of smoke and was extremely unwilling to go in. He stared at the child squatting on the ground and said, "Hurry up." However, the child didn't seem to hear him at all. He turned the comic book page by page. I said, "Go and ask your guardian to come out. Do you hear me, kid?" The young man took the comic book from the child's hand and said in a deep voice. Seeing the comic book disappear, the child was stunned at first. Then, he raised his head. The child's eyes were rolling crazily at this time. As soon as the young man met the child's eyes, he trembled all over. His legs seemed to be petrified. He instinctively stepped back, but his legs really seemed to be rooted and didn't move at all. His body suddenly collapsed and sat down. "Demon, demon!" He wanted to shout loudly, but at this time, a hand directly covered his mouth and pinched it tightly. It was Natsuya Suzuki who was smoking in the smoking room. "If you say one more word, I'll break your neck here." Natsuya Suzuki cracked his sawtooth-like teeth and said, "I'm very good at this. When I break your neck, I can also pull out your bones bit by bit. Can you imagine that scene? It's bloody and smooth." With that, Natsuya Suzuki pressed his hand on the young man's head. The young man widened his eyes and trembled even more. Natsuya Suzuki suddenly released his hand at this time, then pointed to his eyes, and then slowly pointed to the young man's eyebrows. "Shh! Help! Help! Help!" The young man turned around at once, rolling and crawling to escape. On the way, he even fell to the ground several times and screamed all the way. Natsuya Suzuki shook his head, picked up the comic book on the ground, and returned to the child. "Here, troublesome kid! Hee." Natsuya Suzuki rolled his eyes, grabbed the child's collar with one hand and lifted him up. "Let's go, kid." The flight to China. If there were no accidents, it would arrive in the evening. It was very fast to fly from Japan. Chapter 1924. This so-called soul seal was not unbreakable, but the current situation did not allow for it. Wolfgang appeared to be rather irritated, his fingers flicking randomly as if they were neurotic. He needed to leave the modern world and release 3 times more power than the limit of the Soul Seal in an instant to break through the control of the Soul Seal. This was not difficult for Wolfgang. But the premise was that he needed to leave the modern world. Paradise Lost's Eternal Night Palace's doorplate was something that every supreme-level person in the organization would bring with them when they went out. Wolfgang naturally had one as well. Actually, he could leave at any time and enter the crack between dimensions to release his power and break through Mr. Song's control, but he did not intend to do so. He was unable to pull Lucifer, the king of hell, into the organization. If he returned like this, he would become a joke. The most important thing was that Paradise Lost's Eternal Night Palace's doorplate was actually a semi-disposable tool. Every time it was activated, the gatekeeper of Eternal Night Palace would have to recharge it. Normally, the gatekeeper would have to report the circumstances under which the door plate was used. This was actually to collect information about the dangers of different subworlds. Normally, supreme-level people would activate the door plate and leave after completing the mission. However, there were also situations where they could not solve the danger by activating the door plate. What they needed to collect information about such dangerous situations was to accumulate experience so that they could wait for the next mission or other members of the organization to effectively avoid the same danger. If he returned and found out that his freedom was forcibly restrained by a supreme-level being of a subworld, that would be embarrassing. You spicy chicken! Probably, the entire organization would be filled with such an atmosphere. Thinking about this, Wolfgang even regretted sending out the distress signal. He hoped that there were no other members of the organization nearby. At this time, Gong Fanxing was still explaining the rules of being around Mr. Song, but Wolfgang was obviously absent-minded. Generally speaking, as long as you do not intend to betray his honor, your life will not be too bad, and I will not make things difficult for you. After all, we are acquaintances. Miss Gong, your words sound very insincere, using such a method to treat your benefactor. Charlotte sneered. No matter what, Gong Fanxing said expressionlessly, I am only loyal to his honor. How precious can loyalty under slavery be? Charlotte said indifferently. It's not valuable. Gong Fanxing said indifferently, but you need to carry it with you at all times. Moreover, his honor is indeed the Son of Heaven. Even if you pledge your loyalty to him, it is not a disgrace. Gong Fanxing didn't feel like she was living under someone else's roof. In a person's life, some people were willing to be ordinary and hide in the mountains. But there were also people who entered the imperial court and were conferred titles and ministers. They just wanted to have a stage to show what they had learned in their life. This was what the martial artists of her era thought, and she was the demoness of that era. Jiang Hu could not tolerate such a cruel demoness like her, but the imperial court needed such a ruthless pawn. In any case, we don't have any leeway now. Charlotte shook her head and said helplessly, then I can only work for Mr. Song. This kind of attitude was within Gong Fanxing's expectation. She then looked at Wolfgang, seemingly asking, do I have any other choice? At this time, Wolfgang laughed and said, I only hope that Miss Gong can treat me better, I am already satisfied. Zhenzhen was like an infatuated person, but it was a pity that he was too dissolute. Gong Fanxing said with a charming smile, I can't be compared to those obedient girls. I have a wild temperament, and I love to play with handsome young masters the most. I am a vile creature who can't get away from the world of mortals. I am not the kind of person that Mr. likes. Wolfgang smiled indifferently. Right at this time, a wave of air spread over, and Mr. Song could be seen walking out of the wooden house in the forest slowly. Gong Fanxing was the first to kneel down. This servant greets his honor. However, Wolfgang and Charlotte were still standing. Mr. Song didn't care at this time. He waved his hand and signaled Gong Fanxing to stand up, then said indifferently, I heard that Kelowna is going to hold a worldwide conference, and the situation of the world will change because of this. The The three of you, come with me to take a look at this storm. After saying this, Mr. Song asked Wolfgang and Charlotte to wait on the other side of the island. Is there anything wrong with these two? When only Mr. Song and Gong Fanxing were left, he suddenly asked. Reporting to his honor, at present, although Wolfgang and Charlotte are unwilling, they are after all smart people, and know that they can't make things difficult for themselves. For the time being, it is still considered a cooperation. Mr. Song nodded, and no one knew what he was thinking. What is his honor's plan from now on? Gong Fanxing asked at this time. Mr. Song said, times have changed. The world today is no longer the world of my dynasty. However, this world is in chaos. It may not be. Mr. Song didn't say anything, but Gong Fanxing vaguely sensed his thoughts. Her expression couldn't help but become serious. She said in a deep voice, I'm willing to be your lackey. It's too early to talk about this now. Mr. Song shook his head. But I do need to make some preparations. I need some capable people who can work for me. The world is so big. Capable people are mostly arrogant and conceited. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for them to. There will always be some people, Mr. Song said with a faint smile, who will submit for power. Gong Fanxing couldn't help but be stunned. At this moment, a figure appeared in a flash. It was Wolfgang, who had just left not long ago. He frowned and said, There is a ship on the sea. It seems to be coming here. I know. Mr. Song nodded. I asked them to come. Did his honor call them over? Gong Fanxing couldn't help but be startled. They are from an aristocratic family in the capital. Mr. Song said indifferently, after you lured Qinqiu, the successor of Huan Zhen's sect, out to sea, I traveled for a while. I went to the capital and gained something. I'll tell you later. As he spoke, Mr. Song suddenly took out a phone from his pocket. He held the phone in his hand and pulled it away from his body. Then, he tapped on it with his finger and said to the phone, You can log in now. I'll board the ship immediately. Gong Fanxing opened her mouth, not because of the so-called gain that his honor said, but because his honor suddenly took out a mobile phone, which made her feel strange. Today's technology is indeed extraordinary. Mr. Song said with a smile, I've already ordered people to present some of the latest models. They are now on the ship. I'll give them to the three of you later. It'll be convenient for you to contact each other. What could she say? Seeing that his honor was so excited, she could only show a face of ecstasy. This servant thanks his honor for the reward. Wolfgang just looked at the phone and didn't say anything. How could he be controlled by such a fool? It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be. Get on the ship. Get off the island. Generally speaking, the administration treated all the transcendent organizations that came to participate in the summit with the principle of treating all of them equally. That was true. However, when it came to sending people to receive them, they couldn't do everything. For example, if a giant like the Magician Association and a non-unionic diplomatic group from Middle-earth arrived at the same time, they couldn't split Yen Xiaoxi into two and make both sides explode. Therefore, the administration treated everyone equally and started from the practical point of view. Fortunately, the administration had already started the plan to increase the number of members. Since the Mount Tai incident, the administration had already increased the number of members. At the same time, this was also the first official and significant mission for these newly recruited people. I've been in the administration for 15 years, but this is the first time I've seen such a big scene. You all are lucky to have encountered this era. No matter what kind of organization it was, there would always be such a person in the organization. Senior. By the way, what's your name again? In front of one of the guest houses of the summit, the senior who had just finished his daily inspection suddenly asked. Ling Feng. Ling Feng? The senior repeated the name carefully and then skillfully took out a cigarette. Brother, which department did you come from? Looking at you, ordinary departments can't accommodate a master like you. Senior, you must be joking. Ling Feng shook his head and said, I'm just a newcomer. No matter which department I came from, I'm just a newbie in the administration. You look like a soldier. The senior narrowed his eyes and then smiled. I heard that there was a training program before. A group of elite soldiers were selected from the military all over the country and sent to Consultant Firecloud for intensive training. You came here in the same way, right? Of course not. Ling Feng smiled and said, It's because my sister-in-law is in the bureau. I pulled a lot of strings to get in. If I could go to Consultant Huiyun for training, why would I be doing such a simple job here? I would have been sent to a field mission long ago. That's true. The senior smiled noncommittally and said, Okay. There's nothing else here. You can go back and report. Okay. Ling Feng nodded and then drove away. Where's your sister-in-law? The senior flicked the cigarette butt and chuckled. Then, he shook his head and went back to the guest house casually. After leaving the guest house, it didn't take long to drive back to the temporary headquarters of the administration. However, Ling Feng didn't go back immediately. Instead, he drove around the city for a while and thought about something. His experiences in the past few months were far better than the first half of his life, since he was selected for the intensive training program. In fact, since the rescue operation of the Mount Tai incident, he had been thrown into that mysterious supernatural world. However, Ling Feng was no longer a young man. He was in his 30s and had a family. In the list of people who were selected for the intensive training program, there was almost no one older than him. Most of them were hot-blooded young men in their early 20s. He was even weaker in terms of physical fitness. However, he endured it and completed the training program early. Before that, he was lucky enough to receive private guidance from Consultant Firecloud. It was said that in the decades of the administration's history, it was one of the rare cases. Was he proud? Obviously not. Ling Feng only felt that there was not enough time. It was not enough for a middle-aged man like him to compete with the younger generation and rush in front of these young people. But since it's rare for me to come back here, I should go and see Xiling and little Luo Qiu. However, Ling Feng quickly gave up this idea. He was still in the midst of official business and couldn't get too involved in personal feelings. As a soldier, Ling Feng restrained his human nature to the maximum extent. He even only called home once a week to report that he was safe and only said a few simple words. Let's go back. He quickly made a decision and carried out this decision without hesitation. It's the same if I visit after everything is over. But soon, Ling Feng had to step on the brake and stop the car. He focused his eyes and looked at a figure in the riverside corridor outside the car. Then, he hurriedly unfastened his seat belt, got out of the car and rushed to the figure in his sight. It was the back of a young woman. He quickly came behind the figure and asked tentatively, Excuse me, is that Zhong Luoyue, third Miss Zhong in front? She slowly turned around and looked at the man who called her. She frowned slightly. You are Ling Feng. Ling Feng said directly, Third Miss, do you remember me? We've met once. Your grandpa's, the Zhong family's old master, was a person who had survived the war era. He was in the army and had a strong background in the army. However, due to his health problems, he had faded out of the public eye in recent years. Ling Feng's original troop belonged to the exploration team established by old Master Zhong when he was young. Of course, in the decades after the war, the original exploration team had undergone many reorganizations. Ling Feng, I remember now. Zhong Luoyue nodded after recovering from her daze. Some of her blurry memories gradually became clearer. A few years ago, at my grandpa's birthday party, we did meet once. This was probably the benefit of becoming a vampire. Her vision, memory, hearing, smell and so on were all strengthened to different degrees, especially her memory. Zhong Luoyue found that as long as she concentrated hard to recall something, she could get a clear memory from the blurry memories of the past, no matter how insignificant the details were. Third miss, you have a good memory. Ling Feng smiled. Zhong Luiyue said casually, you're not bad either. We only met briefly a few years ago, but you could still recognize me in the crowd at a glance. Actually, not exactly. Ling Feng shook his head. I just paid more attention to your affairs recently. Me? Zhong Luiyue frowned. Why? Ling Feng said, Third miss has been missing for a long time, so Senior Officer Luo found many people in private, hoping to help. I also heard some news, so I paid more attention to it. But I didn't expect to meet Third Miss here today. Third Miss, Senior Officer has been looking for you for a long time. I think I should inform the old chief. I don't want to go back for the time being. Zhong Luiyue shook her head. And this is my family affair. Thank you for your concern, Major Lung. I'm not in the army now. Is that so? Zhong Luiyue nodded. She saw a badge pinned on Ling Feng's collar. This was the symbol of the administration. But she didn't ask. There was no need. She originally planned to walk around alone to relieve her boredom. She didn't expect to meet someone who knew her in such a place. Moreover, it should be someone from the Zhong family's side. Before her grandfather retired, he had indeed supported many people. Most of these people were deeply grateful to her grandfather. This kind of terrifying network that had been accumulated over decades was also an important factor in why the Zhong family was able to become one of the 4 great families in the capital. However, Zhong Luiyue didn't have the heart to care about such worldly affairs. It was mainly because of the nature of vampires. The blood of their loved ones was extremely attractive to vampires, and it was often the culprit that caused vampires to go missing. How could she dare to return to the Zhong family at this time? Third Miss, if it's convenient, can you give me your contact number? Ling Feng thought for a while. He saw Zhong Luiyue's disappearance as a runaway due to a conflict with her family, so he didn't intend to force her. Or you can leave my contact number. If there's anything, feel free to look for me. That's very kind of you, Zhong Luiyue said perfunctorily in her heart, but there was no trace of perfunctory expression on her face. She even gave a feeling of gratitude. Ling Feng smiled and said, You're welcome. After all, I know Third Miss since you were young. I kind of watched you grow up. When young? Zhong Luiyue couldn't help but be stunned. Her powerful memory started to move forward and search carefully. Ling Feng had already started speaking. Third Miss, I guess you don't remember much. After all, it was very young. At that time, Third Miss, eldest young master, and second young master were arranged by the old chief to train in the army. It was in the summer, do you still remember? Zhong Luiyue pondered and didn't say anything. Ling Feng said, At that time, Third Miss was lost. At that time, I was only a small company commander. We were almost scared to death. Fortunately, we found you in the end. I remember. Zhong Luiyue nodded and asked curiously, How did you find me at that time? Ling Feng said, One of my good brother's children told us. That child said that he accidentally got lost at night and then met a little girl in the forest. After a night, when the sun rose, he found his way out and asked for help. When we heard that, we knew it must be you, Third Mississippi. That's why we found. Third Miss? Zhong Luiyue suddenly grabbed Ling Feng's arm. Ling Feng could not help but be astonished by this sudden action. She had a complicated expression on her face. You really know that child? Am I finally about to find you? Little rascal. Chapter 1925. That's the child of a good friend of mine. It was summer vacation back then, so he brought the child to visit me. Unknowingly, Zhong Luiyue and Ling Feng found a bench nearby and sat down. Ling Feng was more curious about why the Third Miss was so interested in what happened back then. However, Ling Feng was indebted to the Zhong family, so he was naturally more sensitive to the descendants of the Zhong family. Are you still in touch? She pondered and asked. We haven't been in touch for a while. Ling Feng said casually, then frowned curiously. Third Miss, you seem to care a lot about that child. Zhong Luoyue smiled faintly and said almost impeccably, "When I was young, I lost my way in the forest, fell into a tree hole and hurt my leg. It was that child who saved me and stayed with me for a night so that I wouldn't be too scared. However, when I woke up, you had already found me and sent me directly to the military hospital. I never saw that child again, and I didn't even have the chance to say thank you." Leng Feng listened carefully. Perhaps it was because he was subconsciously suspicious. He needed to make sure that the third miss of the Zhong family cared about that child, and whether it would affect the child in any way. He didn't want this child, who had grown up, to be negatively affected. If necessary, he didn't even want to reveal more about this child to the third Mississippi. After all, so much time had passed. Even if he said that he couldn't remember clearly, Zhong Luoyue wouldn't have anything to say. However, he saw that Zhong Luoyue seemed to be really grateful, so he was slightly relieved. "I see." Leng Feng nodded and smiled. "Actually, third miss, have you ever thought that the child might have forgotten about this matter? After all, it happened so many years ago." "Maybe." Zhong Luoyue chuckled. "I also forgot about it for a long time, but I suddenly remembered it recently. So, if it's possible, Mr. Ling, can you tell me how to contact this friend of yours? At least let me say thank you that's been delayed for more than 10 years. "I'm afraid that won't work." Leng Feng shook his head. "You won't be able to contact my friend." Zhong Luoyue was stunned. "He died in the line of duty a few years ago." Leng Feng said softly, "However, I can give you their address. As for whether you'll be able to see the child from back then, I can't guarantee it because I heard he went abroad to study. Perhaps he's not here now." "It's okay." Zhong Luoyue's eyes lit up. "It's better than being surrounded by a sea of people." She soon obtained a piece of paper with an address on it from Leng Feng. After that, there was nothing else worth talking about. Zhong Luoyue and Leng Feng were practically strangers to each other. One of them only wanted to help the old chief find out about his granddaughter's whereabouts, while the other wanted to find out about what happened back then. That was why they had this rare conversation in their lives. After a hurried farewell, Leng Feng drove away. According to the principle of going to the nearest, Leng Feng had just received an order to receive a supernatural envoy that had just arrived. Zhong Luoyue sat alone on a bench in the riverside corridor. She looked at the piece of paper with the address in her hand and fell into deep thought. Should I go? She couldn't help but ask herself. The wind by the river carried a unique fishy smell, but it wasn't the smell of blood that vampires liked. She was no longer the little girl back then. What the hell is going on here? Another car drove into a small valley not far from the city. 2 field agents from the administration got out of the car. They quickly found the car of Senior Agent Fu Mingxian, who went to investigate the place where the drone was shot down in the morning. When they saw the parked off-road vehicle, they naturally saw the 2 heads pierced through by the tree branches and stuck in the ground. The 2 field agents were instantly shocked by the scene in front of them. It was a perilous situation. Finally, they found Fu Mingxian's body with his head separated from his body. They could no longer analyze the situation at the scene. This was probably the worst thing that had happened before the Transcendence Conference officially began. A senior agent and 2 mid-level agents of the administration had been killed. Chopping off the heads and hanging them on the ground with branches was the worst form of provocation. "What did you say?" She lost her composure. In the surveillance room of one of the guest houses that the administration had temporarily requisitioned, Yan Xiaoxi, who had been watching the surveillance footage for almost a week, suddenly sprung up from her seat. "Old Fu is dead?" "Yes, it's true. These are the photos of the crime scene." The subordinate whipped out his mobile phone and showed it to Yan Xiaoxi. "I didn't believe it at first. It was unbelievable, but it's true. Boss Fu died a horrible death." Yan Xiaoxi took the mobile phone and stared at it without uttering a single word. However, her expression was the coldest and most terrifying one that the subordinate had ever seen in years. Chief. Get the people at the scene to protect everything at the scene. Yan Xiaoxi said with an expressionless face. Don't touch anything. I want to check it out personally. But the murder here. Just as the subordinate was about to say something, he saw Yan Xiaoxi's gaze and hurriedly changed his words. Chief, just go ahead. Leave this matter to me. I won't let anything go wrong here. Yan Xiaoxi remained silent and strode out of the surveillance room. The subordinate pressed his hands against the control panel and stared at the surveillance footage on the screen. However, he could no longer focus. Since they addressed him as Boss Fu, he should know how close they were to Fu Mingxian. Murder case, Boss Fu's death. The subordinate muttered to himself, tomorrow is the meeting. Is this directed at us, the agency, or? Yan Xiaoxi soon arrived at the scene of the murder. In fact, after driving out of the restricted area, he immediately stuck a few lightning speed charms on himself and jumped out of the car. He then sped all the way there. Chief. The two agents who were guarding the scene hurriedly rushed forward to greet him. Yan Xiaoxi walked toward Fu Mingxian's corpse without uttering a single word. He squatted down and looked at Fu Mingxian's head that had been cut open. His eyes were still open. Yan Xiaoxi closed his eyes and said, Trust me, I'll definitely find the murderer for you. Yan Xiaoxi then looked at the two field agents and asked, Where's the soul-summoning instrument? I told you to prepare it on the way here. The two field agents seemed to be in a dilemma. They opened their mouths but could not find the words to say. Where's the soul-summoning instrument? Yan Xiaoxi asked in a low voice. Leader, please listen to us first. One of the field agents gritted his teeth and said, Before you came, we already used the spirit summoner to check Boss Fu and the other two agents' surroundings, but we couldn't detect their 3 souls and 7 spirits at all. Their souls are gone. Disappeared. Yan Xiaoxi frowned and looked around in bewilderment. Disappeared? How could that be? Chief. The field agent said, Boss Fu came here to investigate the destruction of the drone. We found the wreckage of the drone nearby. Could it be that the person who killed Boss Fu and the person who destroyed the drone were the same person who trespassed? Since Yan Xiaoxi did not speak, the two field agents naturally did not dare to continue speaking. Yan Xiaoxi sat cross-legged on the ground with his eyes closed and his hands forming a strange hand seal. He sat there without moving at all. Chief, what are you doing? You don't understand. Chief Yan's natural sense of perception is extraordinary. He can sense many things that can't be detected with the naked eye and equipment. I think he's using his spiritual sense to search for any remaining clues. After a long while, Yan Xiaoxi opened his eyes. There seemed to be a flash of lightning in them. What a strong aura! This level seems to be even stronger than Master's. Yan Xiaoxi's expression became more and more solemn. He had tracked down many strong auras. Among the remaining auras, there was even an unusually fierce aura. In fact, there were 2 of them. The people who left behind these powerful auras were suspected to be the ones who killed Fu Mingxian and the 2 mid-level agents, especially the 2 most ferocious auras. Bring their corpses back first. Yan Xiaoxi lifted Fu Mingxian's head and said, There's nothing else worth investigating here. Let's go. Yes, in the train station, Ling Feng was searching for the transcendent order that had just arrived according to his instructions. At the same time, he was reading some simple information about the transcendent order. The Black Order? A few months ago, Ling Feng was just an ordinary soldier who had never come into contact with anything unnatural. But now, all sorts of extraordinary creatures were appearing one after another, leaving Ling Feng feeling as if there was too much for him to take in. All of this was new and mysterious to him. He was like a sponge, rapidly absorbing all the transcendent knowledge he could get his hands on every day. Soon, an exceptionally eye-catching group entered Ling Feng's line of sight. He did not even have to distinguish them to know that they were the people he was supposed to receive. He quickly walked up to them. This group was made up entirely of women. Other than the young woman in the lead, the rest of the women were all dressed in the same black nun's uniform. That was why they were so eye-catching. That was why he could recognize them at first glance. As for the woman in the lead, she was wearing a tight black leather jacket with a slender windbreaker. "Excuse me, are you Miss Lamia's, the representative of the remnant of the black religious congregation in this meeting?" Ling Feng stood upright and asked. "Although we're not a big organization, but—" The woman in the tight leather jacket tilted her head and said, "Are you the only one, Mr. Commissioner of the Kelowna administration?" "I'm sorry," Ling Feng could only say, "because there are too many envoys arriving in the last 2 days. Knight, we've tried our best to make sure that each of the envoys is received. Miss Lamia's, please follow me. Your accommodation has been arranged." "Then let's go," the woman in the tight leather jacket said calmly. She seemed to be a difficult person to talk to, but Ling Feng did not mind. He was not the talkative type. The Black Order, an anti-God organization? Interesting, Ling Feng thought to himself. Right, have the envoys from the Vatican arrived? The woman in the tight leather jacket asked suddenly. "They're here." Ling Feng nodded and said, "But we're not in charge of arranging meetings between the envoys. I don't want to meet them either." The woman chuckled. "I heard that the Vatican's envoys have an interesting priest. Is that right?" "I'm not sure," Ling Feng said. "I haven't come into contact with the Vatican's envoys." "Is that so?" The woman in the black leather jacket faintly smiled. She immediately looked around and muttered to herself, "Speaking of which, it's really amazing. This city, it's like being completely trapped in a small place, unable to move. It's really an extremely annoying feeling. I hate this feeling of being trapped." Ling Feng did not know how to respond, so he could only ask, "Miss Lamia's, the envoys from all over the world usually come by air. Why did you choose to come by train?" "Because I'm poor." The woman in the black leather jacket smiled. "Do you see the word poor written on my face?" Even Ling Feng, who was a veteran and did not like to smile, was stunned. This reason was very real. "I'm just kidding." The woman in the black leather jacket, Lamia's, chuckled and said casually, "I just don't like the feeling of being in the sky. This way, please." And so, Ling Feng decided to send the women from the Black Order to the guest house as soon as possible. "You're injured. Don't move. Let me treat you." The boy found a lot of leaves and put them in his mouth to chew. He spat out the leaves he chewed and spread them on the girl's leg. The girl felt dirty and wanted to resist, but for the sake of the boy's cute face. He looked like the bear doll in her room. So cute. "Are you hungry? I have some biscuits here. Let's share them. Don't be afraid. Let me tell you a story. Do you know the morning star, the light in the sky? You should have told me. Look at you. You've wet yourself." "I won't look at you. But you need to take off your pants. I'll help you dry them. What a strong smell. Little baddie." She opened her eyes abruptly. Her gem-like eyes suddenly opened on the rearview mirror in the car. This gave the driver, who was peeking at her, a fright. Those gem-like eyes were extremely sharp. We're here. Dear customer, due to the powerful aura of the owner of those eyes, the driver could not speak fluently. This was a beautiful woman with an unusually powerful aura. The woman paid the driver and got off the car. She did not say a word. She just looked at the piece of paper in her hand and compared it to the address of the building. "This is the place." She looked up and studied the residential building in front of her. It was a very ordinary residential building in a small district. There was nothing special about it. In the end, I still came. She did come, but as long as she didn't reach the exact address. She didn't even press the doorbell to let people know she didn't really come. Should she go up or not? I didn't know there were times when I couldn't make up my mind. Zhong Luoyue chuckled and shook her head. Then, she walked into the lobby of the building, pressed the button, and waited. She waited quietly. She had been waiting for many years. Chapter 1926. An ordinary residential building, ordinary and narrow, an elevator that hadn't even been dismantled and renovated with anti-collision planks, an ordinary building with 2 stairs and 4 households. This was not an ordinary day. First, she observed. She called it planning before acting. Zhong Luoyue was an observant person. She did not dare to say that she was meticulous, but her woman's sensitivity and innate intuition probably did not lower her average. The shoe rack in front of the door. Men's shoes, women's shoes, women's shoes, women's shoes, women's shoes. There were many women's shoes, and they were all different sizes for different women. Some were mature, some were youthful, and some were ladylike. She pondered in front of the door. There was not only one woman living in this house, but there were different types of women, and most likely they were young women. Brothers or sisters, guests? Or female companions? Of course, they could be wives? Too young, it's impossible. She remembered that he was younger than her. At that time, he was so small, not even as tall as her. He looked like a forest elf who escaped from home to play at night. She continued to ponder. The third daughter of the Zhong family did not expect that the obstacle was a shoe rack. She had been standing here for more than 3 minutes. At this moment, the door of the house seemed to be opening. Zhong Luoyue heard the sound and quickly hid behind the safety door at the back of the stairs to observe. She didn't know why she wanted to dodge. It was a subconscious action which made her feel guilty. This shouldn't be the case. Then, I'm going to take out the trash. It was a woman's voice, and it was a very pleasant voice. She hid behind the safety door, so she could not look out. She could only use her hearing. However, she still couldn't determine the identity of the woman in the room based on this sentence. Why did she have to worry about this? She frowned. She heard the sound of the elevator opening and closing. The woman who was going to take out the trash should have gone down. Zhong Luoyue slowly walked out from behind the safety door. She needed to continue to ponder. But reality did not allow her to continue this meaningless stay. There was a young man standing in front of the door looking at her. His smile gave Zhong Luoyue an unparalleled impact. She recognized this young man. He was the mysterious young man who was with Song Ying in the manner of the god of gamblers in South America. It's you. Zhong Luoyue said subconsciously. Why are you here, you? Hello, Miss Zhong. He smiled like a boss. Zhong Luoyue doesn't know how she got in. This is an ordinary family that can be seen at a glance. Even after she sits down, her mind is still a little muddled. What do you want to drink? Water? Drinks? Luoqiu smiled faintly and said, As for alcohol, if it's not a festival, it's forbidden here. Zhong Luoyue thought for a moment and said, You seem to know that someone will come looking for you. Me. Luoqiu didn't say anything, but just walked closer. He didn't get too close, but the third daughter of the Zhong family suddenly became nervous. However, she made herself look as calm as usual, and her gaze was calm. Boss Luo reached out his hand and pressed a button. He pressed the landline button, and then a message sounded. Zhong Luoyue recognized the voice in the message immediately. It was Ling Feng's voice, and it was obvious that Ling Feng had made the call after meeting him. Is this Xiling? I'm Ling Feng. Nothing special. Recently, a Miss Zhong may come looking for Luoqiu. She's the granddaughter of a friend of mine. She shouldn't have any bad intentions. As for the reason, let her say it herself. That's all. So, your name is Luoqiu. Zhong Luoyue looked at him with a slight smile. I finally know your name. Boss Luo smiled and said, There should be an introduction in Mr. Tu's manner. It's not the same. Zhong Luoyue shook her head. Miss Zhong, why are you looking for me? Luoqiu looked into her eyes and asked. Zhong Luoyue thought for a while, and made a decision that even she felt was rash. She looked into Luoqiu's eyes and slowly stretched out her left leg. She pressed her palm and slowly slid it to her ankle. Then, she slowly pulled up her loose pants, revealing her calf. Do you remember this scar? Boss Luo glanced sideways. On her calf, there was a scar about half a finger long. The color was very faint, but if one looked carefully, it could still be seen clearly. 13 years ago in the summer, Zhong Luoyue said slowly, there was a little girl who got lost in the forest. A boy who was younger than her saved her and treated her wound. They spent the night in the dark tree hole. Boss Luo didn't say anything. Zhong Luoyue said softly, do you know planet Qiming, the light in the sky? Miss Zhong still remembers. Boss Luo smiled. I will always remember, Zhong Luoyue said as if she was possessed. However, she quickly pulled down her pants and returned to her normal appearance. Actually, I've been looking for her. My family has also been looking for her. We want to thank that child back then, but we haven't been able to find her. Boss Luo said honestly, actually, many things about the past are already very vague to me. I only have a vague impression of what Miss Zhong said. And I remember now. That night in the tree hole, I did treat your wound and told you the story of planet Qiming. And some. Let me think. It's okay if you can't remember the rest, she said quickly and resolutely. I can't remember for now. Boss Luo smiled. Only then did the third miss of the Zhong family let out a sigh of relief, but the topic seemed to have come to an end all of a sudden. Her sudden appearance at the door was something completely different from what she had planned. It was like a voice or some kind of push that pushed her from a corner of fate to this place. She didn't expect this at all. There was even a faint feeling of intoxication, as if she had once been in this man's arms. Her chaotic thoughts made Zhong Luoqian look very bad. She even had a feeling of restlessness. Miss Zhong, have you thought about removing the scar on your leg? Boss Luo suddenly said. With the current medical technology, it should be easy to do. She looked at him and asked seriously, you want me to get rid of this scar? It represents something about my past. Boss Luo also answered seriously, from my point of view, I don't want to. But I won't force it, because the body belongs to you. And even if the scar is removed, the memory won't be removed. We probably only wish for our memories to have a physical carrier that can bear them so that we can remind ourselves. Do you know what it means to leave a scar on a woman? That's why I said I won't force it. Boss Luo smiled. Whether it's tangible or intangible, Miss Zhong appeared today. If there are no special circumstances, I think it will be hard for me to forget this matter in the future, because it had been extracted from my blurry memories of the past. An adult's memory is probably a lifetime's memory. What about the childhood memory? What does it look like? She was still looking at his eyes. Just like the past, the eyes of the little boy in her memory were as bright and clear as the past. Just like what you and I look like now. What do you look like? She asked aggressively. Miraculously, this was a reunion after 13 years. Many things could have happened in 13 years, and even one's nature could have changed. It should have been a reunion full of unfamiliarity. But Zhong Luoyue unexpectedly felt as if she had met a playmate who grew up with her. She had unknowingly revealed some of her inner thoughts without realizing it, and she didn't even hate it. Before coming here, she never thought that it would be like this. Boss Luo didn't answer, but asked, Miss Zhong, am I the person in your memory? You know how to avoid the question. Zhong Luoziu chuckled, cunning good at shifting the question back to the questioner. The answer, Boss Luo said casually, the answer we know, the answer we hope to get, and the answer we imagined before asking the question, may not be ideal. Boss Luo immediately smiled. Miss Zhong has a good impression of me, right? Because of what happened when we were young. Maybe it's not necessarily a good impression, but just a special emotion. Zhong Luoyue opened her mouth, and her eyes gradually lost focus at this moment. She subconsciously said, You are not only cunning but also very unexpected. You are so direct. She shook her head and said with a bitter smile, I admit, I was a little caught off guard by this move of yours. It's not hard to guess. Boss Luo smiled. If it can only be forgotten, then Miss Zhong naturally wouldn't come to find me after 13 years. Of course, maybe it's because you didn't have time to say thank you to me back then, so it formed this special feeling. If Miss Zhong's family had thanked me back then, I think I have completely forgotten this matter long ago, right? She chuckled and said frankly, "It's true. What's missing, regretful, and lost, etc. They can always last longer than expected." "I'm not what you imagined," Boss Luo said softly. "You're not what I imagined." Zhong Luoyue also smiled, as if relieved. "It seems that I didn't come in vain today. Anyway, the thank you that was late for 13 years is finally delivered. Thank you, Luochio." "You're welcome." The servant girl seemed to have come back at the right time, but when she came back, she was carrying a small bag in her hand. She seemed to have bought something. "Guest, it seems that you have been gone for a long time." "Yes." Boss Luo smiled. "It's been a while." Boss Luo pressed the pause button of the TV and asked casually, "Didn't you say that there were a lot of leftover ingredients from yesterday?" Miss Maid smiled. "If it's just some, it probably can't satisfy Miss Lizzie's appetite, so I added some beef. Master, can we have beef hot pot tonight?" The most perfunctory words were, "Whatever. I like the sauce you made for the hot pot." So Boss Luo smiled. "It has magic, and it can make all ordinary tastes pleasant. Do you need my help? I don't think I should keep a lady busy all the time. Let me be your assistant, madam." "I'll be very strict." "I'm not bad either." Boss Luo smiled. "If it's only about knife skills, I'm quite confident." The shop owner and the maid quickly got busy in the small kitchen. Boss Luo, who was cutting vegetables, suddenly asked, "By the way, do you remember what happened when you were a child? For example, when—" Miss Maid thought for a while. "For example." Boss Luo thought for a while. "For example, when I was a child and got lost in the forest." Miss Maid said, "There are too many unified individuals, and there are many similar memories. Well, now it seems that I was a very naughty child when I was a child." Boss Luo put down the kitchen knife, held Miss Maid's hand, and brought her into his arms. He ran his hand through her hair and caressed her cheek. "Do you know what I want to do now?" They looked at each other. They hugged and kissed each other. "Well, don't worry, I'm fine. I'll be back soon, don't worry." It was a call from Elizabeth. The vampire girl was quite anxious because of Zhong Liyue's long absence, in this strange foreign country where all supernatural powers were forbidden. "I seem to be very happy?" Zhong Luoyue was stunned for a moment before he shook his head. "No, I didn't come across anything worth being happy about. I just bumped into a friend of mine and chatted for a while. All right, the car's here. I should be able to return to the hotel in an hour." Then the call ended. Zhong Luoyue sighed. As a vampire, Elizabeth was actually a substitute for Zhong Luoyue. But the truth seemed to be the other way around. She also regarded Elizabeth as her own sister. Only by treating Elizabeth with sincerity could she get Elizabeth's dependence. To invest in feelings, she must first be willing to sacrifice herself. She might be despicable. She also thought so. "Is that you, the one with the tail number XXXX? Let's go." Zhong Luoyue got on the car, leaning against the window, and said casually, "Please drive slowly, I'll give you a tip." "You can drive as slow as you want." The driver was quite happy, and from time to time, he looked through the rearview mirror to size up this extraordinarily beautiful woman. Zhong Luoyue didn't care about the driver's gaze. She was thinking about something. Today's matter. The matter of the little boy who had grown up. Some people are shallow. Tomato. Some people are golden on the outside but rotten on the inside. Inadvertently, one day you will meet a person as gorgeous as a rainbow. From then on, other people are just like fleeting clouds. An adult will remember for a lifetime. Zhong Luoyue murmured, "I can't forget. I actually forgot to ask for their contact information. Do you know Venus, the light in the sky? #######PS1. I didn't add any previews because I was planning to sleep, but a ruthless capitalist decided to temporarily hang me up. Writing equals PS2. Thank people under the parasol tree. 4 being cute equals PS3. 1/1. Chapter 1927. We want to see Lord Long. It was the last day before the summit meeting. We won't give up until we see Lord Long. Today they must persuade Lord Long at least. They should get some support so that the proposal they had prepared for a long time could be passed. See, this is a peachwood sword passed down from the Warring States period. I want to die, don't stop me, at this time. Everyone, it's noon, let's eat something. The little butterfly monster of the pet hospital walked out with a big wooden plate hanging on her body, the kind that could be hung on the neck with a bag and could hold a lot of things. I said, I want to die. See my peachwood sword of more than 2,000 years. This is yours, eat it while it's hot. Oh, thank you, I'll die later. Don't stop me. She didn't know how to stop them. After delivering food to the elders and young people of the Monster Clan Association, the little butterfly monster went back immediately without any hesitation. It's really not easy for these old grandpas, Luo Dance thought, but she still did what she should do. There was no place to deliver medicine today, and the hospital couldn't open in this state. As for the cleaning, it had been done in the morning. She could have studied and prepared for the exam, but because of the transcendence, many things were put on hold. Even the public school had been suspended, needless to say, the adult exam she had signed up for. The little butterfly monster who was eager to learn also had no intention to study. Then, how about taking Mr. Fafna for a walk? Few people knew that in the hospital of Long Shiro, Shinryu Kelowna, there was a golden dragon that had made a big trouble in the inhuman domain. The last golden dragon in the inhuman domain had made a big trouble. Even if it was an endangered animal, the Magician Association couldn't protect it. The head of the Radiance Tower thought of a compromise, that was to let the golden dragon go outside to avoid the trouble. But even so, the golden dragon couldn't be left alone. It needed a strong supervisor. Therefore, the true dragon of Godly Land, who loved Face and was also the initiator of Fafner's troubles, took over this golden Fafner, who had reproductive difficulties, and generously gave up the small garden behind the pet hospital for it to live in. The golden dragon looked like a yellow dog now, living in a very simple, ugly, wooden house, built by Long Shiro. Mr. Fafna, time to eat. The little butterfly monster put a plate of meat in front of the door of the wooden house, squatting, hugging her knees, and looking inside. In the simple, ugly, wooden hut, the last golden dragon was lying in the innermost corner. After seeing the appearance of the little butterfly monster, it disdainfully shook its head and ignored her. Mr. Fafna, aren't you hungry? I got a lot of fresh meat. Fafna's ears moved slightly, but its body remained motionless. The little butterfly monster persisted. Mr. Fafna, after eating, I'll take you out for a walk. Don't stay here all day, it's not good for your health. Damn it, this butterfly spirit, is it really treating me as a pet dog that needs to be walked? I'm the last golden dragon, how can I? But, if I don't go out, if it didn't go out now, it would have to deal with some physiological problems in the small wooden house, sleeping next to its own excrement. Just thinking about it made it uncomfortable. Wow, Mr. Fafna, you're out? Good boy, eat something. The little butterfly monster happily stroked the golden dragon's head, causing Fafner to roll his eyes. But probably because he was really hungry, in just a few moments, Fafner had already finished all the food on the plate, and even added another plate. Take me out, I can't hold it anymore. Soon, Luo Dance led the golden dragon out of the underground training ground of the pet hospital. I'm going to die in the name of honor. Do you see this over 2,000 years old peachwood sword? It was a weak shout. At this time, the group of Demon Clan elders were like plants lacking water under the scorching sun. All of them looked listless. And at this time, a group of people had come to this place unknowingly. A man in a wrinkled white casual suit, a foreign woman with a good figure, a fat foreign woman, and a foreign youth in black clothes. There was also a short uncle with shifty eyes, the pangolin spirit that was caught in the small valley. There was something magical about the Forbidden City, the transformation of the monster race. They couldn't transform in the city, but their transformed bodies wouldn't be released by the Forbidden City. For example, if they had turned into a human before entering the city, they wouldn't be released in the city, but they couldn't change back to their original bodies. Similarly, if they entered the city with their original bodies, they could only stay in their original bodies. Before entering the city, the pangolin spirit had turned into a human and suggested that the black dragon should also transform if it could. This black dragon was the partner of Sword Saint Roland, the legendary hero in the inhuman domain. The black dragon had followed Sword Saint Roland to participate in the most vicious and tragic war in the European continent 100 years ago, and had survived until now. Ordinary people couldn't understand the black dragon's arrogance. Forbidden City? Wouldn't it be better to enter the city with its original body and maintain its original appearance? Humph, with the dragon's strong body, even if it didn't use its magic power, it could still trample ordinary people to death. Then, the iron-headed black dragon simply barged into the zone where extraordinary powers were forbidden. The moment it stepped into the zone, the black dragon promptly knelt. Not only could it not use its huge magic power, but it also couldn't use its physical strength. The feeling of weakness even made the black dragon kneel down instantly. Its four limbs couldn't even support its huge and heavy body, and its blood vessels burst in an instant. In shock, Audiobook had to crawl out, barely keeping its life. Its heart couldn't even bear the burden of the forbidden space, and its heavy internal organs were about to burst its heart. The black dragon that barely escaped death instantly turned into a human. Along the way, it no longer dared to underestimate this strange forbidden space. Not only the black dragon Audiobook, but the chubby girl and granddaughter of the Sword Saint, Leah, also looked pale because of the forbidden power. Needless to say, the soul which had an unnatural expression on her face. This soul which was born special and had a powerful spiritual talent. She could always read the thoughts of others, which made it impossible for others to lie in front of her. She could see through all secrets and hear all thoughts. But now, she couldn't hear anything. She couldn't even know if the people walking towards her had any ill intentions. This uneasy feeling even made her temporarily give up on the idea of leaving Farrell's side. According to the pangolin spirit, now in the city, one could meet one or two demons or transcendents just by going out. Only Farrell seemed to be completely unaffected, even in this forbidden city, the soul which didn't see any hesitation on Farrell's face. "Old man, aren't you affected? Why don't you look worried at all?" "I can't use my power either." "Then why are you? We humans are born weak." "We are weak, and so are others. What's there to be afraid of?" The soul which immediately gave up arguing with this crazy old man. Then, under the lead of the pangolin spirit, the team smoothly arrived at their destination, the hospital of the Shinryu in Kelowna. They also saw the group of elders and energetic youths of the demon race gathered outside the hospital to petition. Where did these guys come from? Farrell frowned and asked. Without the power of the soul, it was extremely difficult for the soul which to communicate with the pangolin spirit. She couldn't effectively communicate with the pangolin spirit even if she used both her hands and mouth. They seemed to be the elders of the Demon Alliance in Kelowna. They gathered here to ask the Shinryu of the East for help. At this moment, a timid voice was heard. It was the granddaughter of the Sword Saint, whose face seemed to have words like, "Don't look at me," and "I'm too fat, I don't look good" written all over her face. You can understand the language of this spirit?" The soul which couldn't help but be surprised. "No, you can understand the complicated words of Kelowna?" The granddaughter of the Sword Saint lowered her head even more, and her voice was like a mosquito's buzzing. I like to see some of the things here on the internet are very good. So I learn their language all the time. The soul witch rolled her eyes and said impatiently, when we were in the valley, why didn't you say it was a waste of my spiritual power? Leia hurriedly said, I saw that Miss Julienne was already communicating with him, so sorry. Forget it. The soul witch waved her hand. Seeing that Ajuin looked like he would beat her up if she bullied Leia again, she had no choice but to say, since we have reached our goal, then what do you plan to do, old man? Leia asked this spirit. Farrell thought for a while and said, how big is the demon alliance in Kelowna? I know. Old man, what are you trying to do? The soul witch, who was really scared of Farrell's brain circuit, trembled like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. But Farrell didn't respond. He just looked across the street at the group of demons in front of the pet hospital. Leia was currently communicating with the pangolin spirit. At the same time, a girl was walking over with a dirt yellow dog. 1 minute ago. This feeling. Yes, it's this feeling. This kind of thrill that went straight to the soul, the comfortable feeling of expansion and fading away, and the numbness in the brain. Mr. Fafner, you can't do it under the electric pole. The little butterfly monster scolded. There's a pet bathroom over there. Humph. The golden dragon didn't care about that at all. He only cared about himself. A pet bathroom? Did they really think that the golden dragon was a domesticated pet dog? Hey, those people are. The little butterfly monster looked to the side, then blinked and pulled Fafner over there. Wait. Butterfly monster, I'm not done yet. Wait. What's this smell? How come? Don't go over there. Butterfly monster. Don't. Luo Dance held the golden dragon's 4 limbs and scratched the floor. Soon, she came to the front of a group of guys who were sneakily hiding in the corner. Uncle Pangolin, why are you here? Are you not feeling well and came to see a doctor? The little butterfly monster patted on the pangolin's shoulder. This gave the pangolin spirit a fright. It quickly turned around and asked, Who are you, little girl? I don't know you. Go. Luo Dance blinked and looked at the pangolin. She also noticed some foreigners. Uncle Pangolin, what's wrong with you? Are they your friends? I said I don't know you. Go. The pangolin was furious. He even stretched out his hands and pressed Luo Dance's shoulders, turning her around and pushing her. Where did you come from, little girl? Go home. Don't get in the way. Go. Huh? At this time, Farrell's palm directly grasped the pangolin's wrist. Obviously, the pangolin didn't dare to look into this guy's eyes even though they couldn't use their strength. I don't know this girl, really. Farrell was expressionless, but he didn't loosen his grip on the pangolin. Leia, ask it who this girl is. But at this time, Ajuin's voice suddenly sounded like a scream. Fafner. I smell Fafner. Farrell's eyes instantly focused. At the same time, the pastoral dog led by the little butterfly monster was standing on tiptoe, trying to escape bit by bit, but it couldn't get out of the leash and was soon strangled. Mr. Fafner, don't run around. Otherwise, Sister Long will scold me. The little butterfly monster stretched out her hand and pulled the struggling pastoral dog back. Fafner grasped the floor with a frightened look. How could this be? Why did Ajuin appear here? It's over. It's really over this time. The Golden Dragon's reputation is going to be ruined. It's really you. Fafner. The black-clothed youth had already bypassed the little butterfly monster and came to the pastoral dog's side. He lowered his head and said in amazement, I smelled it from afar and was wondering. I didn't expect it to be you. How did you become this? Poha-ha-ha! The black-clothed youth Ajuin was surprised at first, but as he spoke, he suddenly laughed crazily. Fafner. The last golden dragon's eyes were lifeless, like an empty shell that had been played with. It lifted the leash and wrapped it around its neck twice, then pulled hard. Fafner, it's dead. Fafner stuck out its tongue and fell to the ground like mud. After twitching a few times, it stopped moving. Hey! Mr. Fafner, you can talk. That's amazing, I didn't know. Damn you! Chapter 1928. Picking up the motionless dog on the ground, Audiobook looked at it closely. Fafner, don't play dead. The yellow pastoral dog was still motionless. So you know Mr. Fafner. Nice to meet you. The little butterfly monster communicated with them in a fluent foreign language. Leia, who was puzzled about how to communicate with strangers, suddenly felt relieved. Communicating with one stranger in one day was the limit. When she asked about the pangolin spirit, her spirit was drained. The pangolin spirit suddenly realized that something was wrong. Taking advantage of the time when Farrell's attention was temporarily diverted to luau dance, it suddenly threw out its hands. From the pangolin spirit's hands, a thick white powder was instantly scattered. Everyone immediately waved their arms instinctively to slap the white powder away. What's this? It was the voice of the mind witch. They are gone. That woman, the pangolin, and Fafner. It was the voice of the black-clothed youth. Water, give me water, let me wash. The mind witch fetched a bottle of mineral water and was about to wash her eyes. Unexpectedly, Leia was startled and said in horror, Don't use water. Don't. Your eyes will go blind. What? The witch was so scared that she immediately stopped. This should be the legendary lime powder. Leia said in a panic, I've read a lot of Chinese books. It's mentioned that if the eyes are touched by lime powder, you should never wash your eyes with water. Sprinkling lime powder seems to be a trick that the masters here like to use. It's one of the necessary equipment for masters to go out. It's especially effective in escaping. It's just ordinary flour, Farrell said suddenly. The granddaughter of the sword sage was dumbfounded. But in those fried chicken fantasy novels, wasn't it written like this? After washing, the mind witch said indignantly, this abominable monster actually used such a despicable trick. Farrell said with appreciation, this is a tactic that is very effective in disturbing the enemy. Although it's against the way of knights, if we used this tactic well in the war, we might have been able to reduce some casualties. I'm looking forward to the masters of Kelowna. Are you serious? The witch blinked her eyes. However, Farlier said, this is a country that I have never set foot in. Perhaps I can find a way to fight against those demons here. Before meeting Kelowna and Shinryu, I want to test the strength of these monsters and see what's different. Without giving the witch any time to react, Farrell headed straight for the petitioning party of the demons in front of the hospital. I don't want to go crazy with this old man. Miss Witch clenched her teeth and looked at Leia and Audiobook. Both of you, I know you were also unwilling to be captured by Farrell. Now that we're here, Farrell can't use his power. We can completely escape from him. Audiobook subconsciously glanced at Leia, as if he was already tempted. Let's disperse, Miss Witch said decisively. She was about to run away. If you want to stay with him, I don't mind. But I know there's no benefit to it. I'm sorry, I'm not going with you. Lifting her skirt, Miss Witch ran away without looking back. Audiobook shuddered and grabbed Leia's arm. She's right. There's no reason for us to keep following this lunatic Farrell. His madness will only bring us eternal damnation. Leia, let's leave first and then go back to the inhuman domain. We'll find a place to hide. I don't believe he can find us this time. But why don't we tell Mr. Farrell before we leave? Without a second thought, Audiobook lifted the plump Leia up, found a random path, and ran. At this moment, Farrell did not even turn his head as he walked straight in front of the demon race. Who are you? A demon in his 40s holding a peach-wood sword frowned. Those who are petitioning, step aside. I'm the one who took this spot. Don't block me from dying to prove my sincerity. Otherwise, I'll chop you up. As he spoke, he raised his peach-wood sword high and looked like he was going to chop down. Farrell reached out and grabbed the blade of the peach-wood sword tightly. This kind of wooden sword can't kill. Why are you using a wooden sword? Let go. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm warning you, if you don't let go, don't blame me for not being polite. This guy has a lot of strength. Although this little bit of strength is nothing if not for the forbidden spell, but to be able to perform this way in the forbidden spell environment, could this guy be the naturally strong type? I'm feral. Please enlighten me. Since their language was different, this mad knight returned to the most primitive way of making friends. Fight. Fight. I can reach your heart, and you can also leave a mark on my body. We can understand each other. The heavier the fist, the deeper the understanding. There was no better way to understand a person than to fight. Fist. Although the person holding the peachwood sword didn't know what the skinny man in a wrinkled white suit was saying, he didn't need to guess when he saw the other party's fist. This was clearly a signal to start a fight. Good guy, you probably don't know how I became famous. Back then, I was on the shore of Sea. My left fist. Ouch! The fist was too fast. Before the middle-aged man with the peachwood sword finished speaking, his left eye was hit. Do you have any manners? I haven't even said, ouch! You've angered me. I'm a peach tree with 300 years of cultivation. Ouch! Uppercut, uppercut, roundhouse kick. The moment the middle-aged man with the peachwood sword was sent flying, the peachwood sword in his hand was instantly snatched away by Farrell. This kick sent the peach tree spirit flying more than 2 meters away. He directly smashed in front of a group of sitting demon elders. The peach tree spirit wasn't seriously injured. After all, his physical quality was there. It was just that his face wasn't good. At this time, Farrell was holding the peachwood sword in his hand. He looked around at the demons and frowned. I want to experience the battle tactics of the East. Don't have any scruples. Let your strongest guy come out. Confrontation. At this time, a few energetic demons quickly helped the peach tree spirit up. They gritted their teeth and looked like they wanted to try. They didn't understand what bird language the other party was speaking, but it didn't matter. They just had to fight. This was the world's uniform. Elder Fong, this person is strange. The peach tree spirit covered his chest and his expression changed. I suspect that this guy was called by Lord Long Jun. What do you mean? For many days, Lord Long Jun still avoided meeting us. Now that the meeting is about to start, Lord Long Jun is bound to come out. I think this guy was called by Lord Long Jun to deliberately provoke and cause trouble. His purpose is to let us know the difficulties and retreat. Otherwise, who would dare to cause trouble when they knew that we were here? You see, even the administration can't do anything to us. In the end, they still sealed this road to prevent humans from breaking in. How can there be someone so stubborn? Elder Fong, you are all seniors of our demon realm. You are of virtue and prestige. If this person doesn't have the support of Lord Long Jun, I'm sure he won't dare to do this. You are right. At this time, an elder sighed. It seems that Lord Long Jun really doesn't want to meet us. That's why he deliberately sent this guy. What should we do? Elder Fong, seniors. The peach tree spirit said seriously. The only thing we can do now is to shed all pretense of cordiality. Why don't we all rush up and knock this guy down and directly rush into the hospital? As the saying goes, the law can't punish the masses. We are here for the future of the demon race. We are already prepared to sacrifice ourselves for a righteous cause. Now is the time for the demon race to rise. For the great cause of the demon race, we might as well remonstrate with our lives. Remonstrate with our lives? That's right. Remonstrate with our lives. If we don't succeed, we will die for a righteous cause. The peach tree spirit gritted his teeth. For the demon race, we will lay down our heads and shed our blood. I don't believe that Lord Long Jun will remain indifferent when we show our sincerity with our lives. Well said. Elder Fong knocked his walking stick at this time. The demon race should have such ambition, but, the peach tree spirit was stunned. This is a big matter. Elder Feng said seriously. Let me go back and settle the matters after my death. After I settle the old and young in my clan and find a good place to be buried, I will definitely come to accompany you. Don't worry, the road to the netherworld is one step ahead of you. My thoughts will go with you. Good brother, don't be in a hurry to drink Meng Po's soup on the Bridge of Helplessness. Wait for me 300 to 500 years. I will definitely accompany you. Elder Feng? At this time, Elder Feng picked up his walking stick and put on his hat. He sped up and left. The peach tree spirit subconsciously looked at another elder of the demon race next to him. Uncle Shui? I also have to settle the matters after my death. Wait for me. I will come back immediately after I make my will. There is no need for 300 to 500 years. 1 to 200 years should be enough. Remember, don't drink Meng Po's soup first. We will still be good brothers in the next life. He walked briskly and sped up. I suddenly remembered that I still have something to do. My stomach hurts. My mother is calling me. The group of elders of the demon race scattered in front of the peach tree spirit one by one. The peach tree spirit could only look at the group of energetic young men of the demon race. But this was like a signal. The energetic young men of the demon race didn't say a word at this time. They directly scattered in a hubbub. Only the peach tree spirit was left. He looked at the originally majestic petition team, but now he was the only one left. He immediately shuddered. Die. Lighter than a goose feather. The peach tree spirit raised his head and looked at a window on the upper floor of the pet hospital. He was impassioned. With tears in his eyes, he walked step by step towards Farrell. He directly tore open the clothes on his chest and said sadly, heavier than Mount Tai. Come on. Lord Dragon King, look at my loyal heart. Come on, kill me. Come on. Farrell looked at the approaching guy expressionlessly. When this group of people of the Demon Race Alliance scattered in a hubbub, he didn't even intend to stop them. This group of people gave him the feeling that they were a mob. This was the Demon Race Alliance, one of the two major forces in Kelowna? Come on, kill me. He didn't understand. But Farrell didn't like men exposing their breasts in front of him, so he didn't even think about it. Although this was a space where magic was forbidden, most of Farrell's strength came from his own training. Even if he couldn't use the strength of the Knights of the Round Table, at least his physical fitness was the highest limit that a human could reach before reaching transcendence. If he used the correct method of exerting force with this punch, even an iron plate would be dented. KO. Looking at the peach tree spirit that fainted, Farrell shook his head, picked up the peach tree spirit, and threw it into the bushes on the side of the road. He weighed the peachwood sword in his hand and found that the quality of the sword wasn't bad. It was quite comfortable to hold, so he just kept it. At this time, the psychic witch and the others had gone for a long time. Farrell didn't plan to look for them, and directly walked to the door of the pet hospital. He knocked on the door. Farrell, I hope to meet with the Shinryu of the East. He called in a deep voice. Is the Eastern Shinryu in? Please open the door. Bang 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 bang. Who are you looking for? After a while, a woman's voice came from behind Farrell. The Mad Knight frowned. Although all strength was reduced to the freezing point in the forbidden space, he was still very surprised that someone could come this close. He saw a tall Oriental woman wearing jeans and a white shirt. Her hair looked like it hadn't been washed for more than a week. She was standing behind him with one hand on her waist, looking at him from the side. Are you one of the people here? I'm looking for the Shinryu of the East. The woman listened in confusion, then blinked. Suddenly, she seemed to remember something. She took out her mobile phone, said a few words to it, and turned on the speaker. Farrell had already heard the translated voice. Who are you? What are you doing here? They began to communicate through the translation function of the mobile phone. Farrell explained his purpose without hesitation. After the woman understood, she thought for a while. Why are you looking for the Shinryu of the East? She doesn't meet everyone. She's very busy. She has a lot of national affairs to deal with, and a whole army is waiting for her to command. That's right. She's indeed the guardian of the mysterious East. Farrell said seriously. I know this is abrupt, but I do have an important matter. I hope to meet with the Kelowna Shinryu. I want to discuss with the Kelowna Shinryu how to deal with a group of terrible demons. For our world. Is he an idiot? The woman thought and then nodded. Okay, but you've come at a bad time. The Kelowna Shinryu is not here. You won't be able to meet him today. Excuse me, where can I find the Kelowna Shinryu? Farrell asked sincerely. Why should I tell you? The woman shook her head. If you're going to harm the Shinryu, please believe me. Farrell looked at her sincerely, his eyes clear and without a trace of impurity. The woman was a little surprised and nodded. Okay, I can tell you, but don't say it's me. I'm friends with the Shinryu. He's not here today, so he asked me to look at the house. Thank you very much. This is the address. Forget it, I'll write it down for you. A moment later, the woman opened the photo album on her phone and enlarged a picture. She placed it in front of Farrell. This is the Kelowna Shinryu. Look carefully, don't get the wrong person. In the picture, there was a man in white training clothes with white hair standing on top of a mountain with his hands clasped behind his back. Even though it was just a picture or a screen, it was enough to topple mountains and overturn seas. The moment Farrell saw the picture, his expression became extremely solemn. This person is very powerful. Farrell was startled. He had already memorized the appearance of the person in the picture. He looked deeply at the woman in front of him and said indifferently, "Thank you. Even if he's not the Shinryu, he looks like the person I'm looking for. I'll come again." However, she saw this strange man in a white suit leave excitedly like this. The woman scratched her head in confusion and muttered to herself, "Speaking of which, when did the petitioners outside disperse?" Shaking her head, the woman took out the key and opened the door. "Turn on the machine." Outside the city, Grand Peace Hotel. At this time, a young man walked quickly through one corridor after another and finally came to a meeting room. In the meeting room, there were several people with terrifying auras sitting. They were the truly terrifying existences in the Demon Alliance. They were the leaders of the 4 spirit races: Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Black Tortoise, and Vermilion Bird. The leaders of the 4 spirit races, and some leaders of the big races, who had arrived early, didn't follow the request of the administration to stay in the city. Instead, they directly stayed in the Grand Peace Hotel. There were 2 major powers in Kelowna, the Tao Sect Association and the Demon Clan Association. The Tao Sect was close to the administration, while the Demon Clan Association had always had conflicts with the administration. I've received news that Elder Feng's group has left. The reason is unknown. The young man hurriedly lowered his head and said, "It's fine if they left. I didn't expect them to succeed." In the darkness, a rough voice said indifferently, "This group of old fellows who are about to be buried in the ground have no power and no subordinates. Usually, they just rely on their seniority and always jump out to make irresponsible remarks. It's good for them to suffer a little loss. If it wasn't for the fact that they are from the same race, I would have torn them apart." "Okay, we already know about this matter. You can leave now," another clear voice suddenly ordered. The young man could only leave. He had many thoughts and glanced around. He found that other than the 3 leaders of the 4 spirit races and the one who temporarily took over all the affairs of the White Tiger race after Huang Baifu's disappearance, there was also a person in a black cloak. His appearance couldn't be seen. He didn't know who it was. He only vaguely heard that the leaders of the 4 spirit races seemed to call this mysterious person Lord Gongsun. Gongsun? Chapter 1929. In the innermost meeting room of the Grand Peace Hotel, the patriarchs and acting patriarchs of the 4 divine beast clans all looked at the black-robed man, Lord Gongsun. Lord Gongsun had a great background. In terms of status, He was even higher than the patriarchs of the 4 divine beast clans. As for his strength, it was said that this lord was the strongest and most outstanding genius of the Gongsun clan in the past 1,000 years. He even had a trace of the Yellow Emperor's ancestral bloodline. He was a peerless genius who could use a trace of the Xianyuan sword's sword energy. It was difficult for outsiders to know what was going on inside the Xianyuan palace. They didn't know that the genius of the Gongsun clan in front of them had already been dealt with internally. Gongsun Xiu. Because of Gongsun Xiu's collusion with Lai Kaixing in the Mount Tai incident, the Xianyuan palace had already sent the current patriarch of the Gongsun clan to the cold pond to be punished. As for the culprit, Chichi Kamaya, the leader of the Kuan clan, had witnessed his death on Mount Tai, so there was no way to pursue the matter. However, no one in the Xianyuan palace knew that Gongsun Xiu, who had died in the spiritual chi fissure on Mount Tai, was only a clone created by the real Gongsun Xiu through genetic technology to cultivate the Yellow Emperor's bloodline. Gongsun Xiu's true identity was the Sun Seat of the Michael Club, a mysterious and low-key organization that lurked in the dark corners of the world. In this trip, you need to prevent the summit meeting from being held smoothly. The black-robed man said slowly, "This is the human race's way of appeasing the transcendent realm. Once you compromise at the meeting, you will be under the human race's management in the future. However, the human race's fear of the demon race won't decrease because of this. On the contrary, for all the demon tribes in the divine land that have been exposed under the sun, I believe that you, as the 4 spiritual tribes, know very well what kind of situation it will be." The acting patriarchs of the Azure Dragon, Vermilion Bird, and White Tiger remained silent. The patriarch of the Azure Dragon clan snorted coldly. "The administration has long had thoughts of annihilating us. In the past 10 years, their management of us demon clans has become increasingly strict, even harsh. In the Mount Tai incident, the father of the Azure Dragon clan's patriarch Tsang Jinshui, the previous patriarch of the Azure Dragon clan, was killed by the Fire Cloud evil god of the agency on the spot because he secretly helped Lai Kaixing. This patriarch of the Azure Dragon clan with a strong temperament hated the Fire Cloud evil god and the agency to an unprecedented degree. "I won't let anyone from the bureau off," Tsang Jinshui's ice-cold voice echoed, "Lord Gongsun, for this extraordinary summit, even if you didn't say anything, I would definitely not let the Bureau's plan succeed." "Humph, those bastards from the agency really think that the 4 spirit clans are easy to deal with. If it wasn't for the fact that Shinryu has been suppressing us demons, it's hard to say which side this world belongs to. In a short period of time, the strength of a large number of our clansmen has greatly increased. Tsang Jinshui, you said that if it wasn't for the suppression of Shinryu," Chu Xinghe of the Vermilion Bird clan said indifferently, "you better be careful with your words. That is Shinryu. She may not know who is speaking ill of her behind her back, but the earth will know." Tsang Jinshui subconsciously looked at the floor and immediately snorted. If she is really so powerful, she wouldn't be helpless in this forbidden city. Inside, she is just a slightly stronger ordinary person. "Aren't we the same?" Chu Xinghe shook his head. "But the Bureau's weapons can still be used inside, we can't stop them at all. After leaving the city, even if the strength of the 4 spirit clans has greatly increased after the spirit chi revival, we still can't defeat Shinryu. In the end, nothing has changed." "Chu Xinghe, are you afraid?" Tsang Jinshui said angrily. "Don't forget, your master, the previous Vermilion Bird High Priest, was also mercilessly killed by the Fire Cloud evil god on Mount Tai. And you, Old Ming, you are the same. Can you really let go of such a deep blood feud?" The old and strong black tortoise Ming Tushan said weakly, "Calm down, okay? Didn't we sit here to solve this matter? Do you think you can solve the problem by just roaring here? Speak. What solution?" Tsang Jinshui snorted coldly. "You will have to ask Lord Gongsun about this. Ming Tushan said calmly, otherwise Lord Gongsun wouldn't take the risk to gather the 4 spirit clans. I think he already has a plan in mind. They looked at the black-robed Gongsun Shiyu, who was sitting quietly in the shadows again. Gongsun Shiyu directly threw out an item, a metal ball the size of a human fist. As the metal ball rolled, it cracked open, and there was a container inside. It was filled with some purple-blue liquid. I need you to help me bring this item to the summit meeting. At this time, Gongsun Shiyu interlaced his fingers and said indifferently, it is enough to push this summit to a point of no return. What is this? The clan leaders were shocked. It's a newly developed poison. Gongsun Shiyu said calmly, its power is enough to completely erode a transcendent's body in a short time. His organs, bones, and muscles will all be turned into a pool of pus. Lord Gongsun, as if they were shocked by Gongsun Shiyu's description, the clan leaders looked at this prodigy of the Xianyuan Palace in shock. What you all hope for is to restore the prosperity of the demon clan. Gongsun Shiyu said calmly, there has never been a method to overthrow a ruler without bloodshed. Or rather, what you all said about leading the demon clan to find a new way out is just like that group of old people who are petitioning in front of Shinryu's house. It is just talk. But this... Chu Xinghe broke out in cold sweat. This poison, can it work? Are you referring to the Kelowna Shinryu? Gongsun Shiyu said directly. Chu Xinghe was silent. The other clan leaders were also silent. It was only now that they realized how terrifying Lord Gongsun was. The Shinryu is immortal. Gongsun Shiyu said calmly, even if there is a power that can destroy her, it will only destroy this generation's Shinryu. As long as Kelowna still exists, the Shinryu will be reborn. This way, if we use this poison to slaughter the people at the summit, we will definitely fall out with the Shinryu. This will only push the 4 spirit clans into a dangerous situation. Gongsun Shiyu smiled and said, the Shinryu's rebirth needs a process. I think that before the Shinryu is reborn, if you can overthrow the humans and turn the situation around completely, then even if the Shinryu returns, as the protector of Kelowna, she can't say anything. Don't tell me she wants to personally kill the demon clan that has returned to the throne of Kelowna? What if this attack can't destroy the Shinryu? What if the Shinryu escapes? Once she leaves the city, she will immediately become the invincible Kelowna Shinryu. Gongsun Shiyu said slowly, then let's make sure she can't leave the city before the situation is settled. You mean? Ming Tushan's eyes were filled with shock and he couldn't help but stand up. Gongsun Shiyu pressed on the table and stood up as well. Don't you think that this forbidden city is like a natural cage? Is it a prison that should be used to imprison the Long Shirua? They were completely shocked by Gongsun Shiyu's crazy idea. Even Song Jinshui, who claimed to be at odds with the agency, felt cold in his hands and feet. Kill or imprison the current Kelowna Shinryu. This idea was too crazy. They were already used to it and even believed that the Kelowna Shinryu was undefeatable. You are the heavenly pride of Xianyuan Palace. Ming Tushan took a deep breath. You are the descendant of the Yellow Emperor. Why are you on the demon clan side? Gongsun Shiyu smiled faintly and said, I can only tell you my objective after you've decided whether you want to work with me or not. However, I can guarantee that I didn't lie to you about the demon clan fighting against the humans. Think carefully, opportunity waits for no one. You are already standing on the edge of a cliff. Gongsun Shiyu left, and no one knew when he left. Regarding this, the 4 great races could only look at the metal ball that Gongsun Shiyu didn't take with him. For now, no one dared to pick up the metal ball. Old Ming, you're the one with the most evil ideas here. Song Jinshui frowned. What is Gongsun Shiyu's purpose? Can you see it clearly? Am I the one with the most evil ideas? Black Tortoise Ming Tushan rolled his eyes. I'm only a few years older. In the Black Tortoise clan, I'm still a child. Only someone as shameless as him would be able to say such words. I think so. The acting patriarch of the White Tiger clan stood up at this time. Under the gazes of the other 3 patriarchs, he directly picked up the metal ball. Since everyone's opinions haven't reached a consensus, then each of you should go back and properly consider it. This thing, I'll take care of it for you. If this thing is really as scary as Gongsun Shiyu said, I'm afraid it won't be appropriate for you to take care of it. Chu Xing has said faintly, in the end, you're only here as a substitute for Huang Baifu. Then I'll leave it to Great Priest Chu. The acting clan leader chuckled and threw the metal ball over. He would catch it. For something that was thrown at him, it was almost an instinctive action. Seeing that Chu Xinghe was forced to catch the metal ball, the acting clan leader said faintly, "Then, I'll take my leave. The White Tiger clan's intention is to advance and retreat together with the other races. The decision you all come up with is our White Tiger's decision." Advance and retreat together? Easy for you to say. Chu Xinghe laughed coldly. However, the acting clan leader had already left. The remaining 3 clan leaders stared at each other but couldn't say anything. Then, I'll take care of this thing for now. Chu Xinghe thought for a while and said, today's meeting is over. Although the official meeting will start tomorrow, this meeting won't last for just one day. Let's think about what Gongsun Shiyu said. Song Jinshui flicked his sleeves and left. Chu Xinghe said goodbye to Ming Tushan and left with the metal ball. Ming Tushan stayed in the meeting room alone. No matter how he sat, he felt uncomfortable. He sighed. It's really unheard of to be able to accomplish great things with so many ulterior motives. The old black tortoise leaned on his walking stick and shook his head as he left. At noon, in one of the guest houses that the administration had temporarily conscripted, at the entrance there was an unusually tall and sturdy man. He was currently looking straight ahead as he stood on guard. After a while, a young man carrying a bag came in front of the burly man. He patted him on the shoulder and said, "Wang Hu, it's time to eat. Take a rest first." Okay. A burly man. Wang Hu nodded at this time and looked at his companion, Bu Gao, with a smile on his face. They found a place outside the door and sat down. The food was a working meal, a very ordinary lunchbox. You should eat more. Bu Gao directly took half of the white rice in his lunchbox and put it into Wang Hu's box. Look at your figure. They are just right. I can't even take one more. It's okay. I'm not very hungry. Wang Hu shook his head. Bu Gao said indignantly as he ate, "They're really too much. We're such an excellent team of agents and logistical support. Why did they only give us the job of guarding the door? It's simply a waste of talent. If it were up to me, they should send us to receive diplomatic missions from various countries." Wang Hu just listened like that. From a long time ago, he had already gotten used to Bu Gao's nagging. He felt that it was very annoying. However, after listening to it a lot, he slowly got used to it. "Alright, Wang Hu, have you met any acquaintances these days?" Bu Gao suddenly asked. Wang Hu stopped and looked at him, puzzled. Bu Gao continued, "Look at me. Haven't a lot of demons come to this city recently? Among so many demons, don't you know one or two of them, or know you?" Wang Hu shook his head and said indifferently, "I've been standing guard here. I haven't seen any acquaintances." "You still can't remember the past?" Bu Gao asked. Wang Hu shook his head. Bu Gao suddenly patted Wang Hu on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry. You'll remember eventually. Maybe your family and friends are also looking for you. They just haven't found this place yet." "I hope so." Wang Hu smiled casually and began to eat with a spoon. However, he only had one arm left. It was inconvenient. "Let me do it." Bu Gao wiped the grease at the corner of his mouth and took the chopsticks and plastic spoon. He nagged, "Look, you only have one arm left. It's inconvenient to do anything. If everyone around you takes care of you, I'm afraid you won't have a good life." Unexpectedly, Wang Hu suddenly pressed down on Bu Gao's head and forced it between his legs. F***ck. "Old Wang. I'm just taking care of you out of morality. Don't have any strange thoughts. I don't want to open the door to a new world. Boom! The door of the guest house exploded violently in an instant. The broken stones splashed, but Wang Hu directly covered Bu Bugao with his body, blocking all of them. Chapter 1930. Not only was the door of the guest house destroyed, but even the entire lobby inside was destroyed. The impact of the explosion even affected many vehicles parked outside the guest house. Fortunately, there were no passers-by nearby at this time. Bu Bugao was also alarmed for nothing. He looked at the guest house door that was blown up in horror and said with lingering fear, Old Wang, fortunately you are here. Something just shot from behind you and hit the door directly, and then exploded. Wang Hu frowned at this time. Bu Bugao was alarmed again. Old Wang was indeed a beast. The instinct of this beast really couldn't be underestimated. Over there! Wang Hu shouted at this time, and then rushed out like a taut bowstring. Bu Bugao couldn't stop him even if he shouted. Wang Hu's physical fitness was very good. Even in a city with such an environment, Wang Hu's physical fitness was still much better than his. Bu Bugao opened his mouth at this time and could only run quickly to the guesthouse lobby that was blown up. At the same time, he picked up the phone. Hello? I'm Bu Bugao, agent number. Yes, we have an explosion here. Someone attacked the guesthouse. I suspect that the other party has a powerful weapon. It is very likely to be something like an RPG. Even if it was late, with his terrible intuition, Wang Hu quickly locked the hiding position of the secret enemy. However, when Wang Hu rushed to the hiding place according to his intuition, there was no one there. Wang Hu frowned and squatted on the ground. He smelled some residual smell of smoke in the air. Wang Hu crawled on the ground, sniffed the floor a few times, then looked up and rushed out again. He followed the smell all the way, but the smell gradually weakened. His sense of smell shouldn't be like this, but at this time, it was already the limit and he couldn't trace further. Just as he was anxious, a crowd suddenly surged in front of him. He saw a group of pedestrians under a pedestrian overpass at this time. Wang Hu frowned and pushed the passers-by away. It turned out that there was an injured man lying under the overpass at this time. The man seemed to have been thrown something heavy from the overpass and hit directly on the head. His head was bleeding and he fainted on the ground. A kind-hearted person was trying to save the man and call for an ambulance. Wang Hu frowned and walked to the front of the heavy object that had hit the pedestrian. It was a black rectangular suitcase. Wang Hu's nose twitched as he approached. Then, he abruptly opened the box. Inside were the assembly parts of a portable rocket-propelled grenade launcher. Wang Hu was shocked, but he saw that the people around him were all shocked by the things in the box he opened. However, everyone here was human and the smell was mixed. Wang Hu also completely lost the source of the smell that he had tracked. Did he run away, or is he still nearby? A pair of unusually sharp eyes were enough to examine the people around him at this time. The pedestrians were all shocked by Wang Hu's gaze at this time and subconsciously retreated and dispersed. However, Wang Hu didn't discover anything in the end. He picked up the briefcase containing the weapons right away and was about to leave without saying a word. The surrounding pedestrians all moved away in horror. Wang Hu took the briefcase and left just like that. Until the terrifying figure of the one-armed burly man could no longer be seen by the crowd, someone subconsciously asked blankly, Should we call the police? In the crowd, a man lowered the brim of his hat at this time, quietly left the crowd, and then turned into an alley. What a terrifying sense of touch! The man in the hat said to himself at this time, Is his body a predatory beast? He was very familiar with this city. After spending a little time, he came to the door of an old second-hand electrical appliance shop that closed the door and didn't do business. The man quickly detoured to the back door of the shop, raised his head, and looked at the surveillance camera installed on the back door of the shop. After a while, the back door opened, and a young woman with a slightly nervous look came out. She looked at the man and said quickly, Mr. Jean, you are back. Let's talk inside. The man in the hat, Mr. Jean said in a low voice at this time. They quickly walked into the second-hand electrical appliance shop through the back door. The lobby was a mess of all kinds of old electrical appliances. At this time, the young woman quickly came to the counter and pried open the floor, revealing a passage leading to the underground. Mr. Jean directly turned over and jumped down. As for the young woman, after covering the floor, she took a few deep breaths, then opened the door of the shop and hung a sign that said, "Open." He climbed all the way down the ladder and soon landed in a basement that was about 20 square meters. This place was like a warehouse, with all kinds of shelves and several large tables that were put together. At this moment, there were 2 men and 2 women gathered around these work desks that were pieced together. Some of them were fiddling with computer equipment, some were looking up information. A man was even making something with a CNC milling machine. On the wall facing the crowd, there were many photos, news reports, and densely packed pushpins. The red lines wrapped around these pushpins looked like a spider web. Mr. Jean. Seeing the man come back, everyone stopped their work and seemed to be waiting for him to speak. "Why are you looking at me like this?" Mr. Jean said expressionlessly. "Since I am back, it means I am fine. When I don't come back at the appointed time, you will show this expression." Everyone was stunned, then they smiled helplessly. At this time, Mr. Jean walked to the man who was using the CNC milling machine. "Someone found me. In order to avoid him, I threw away your big toy. Are you interested in making another one? Do you think it is as easy as making nails?" The man who used the milling machine was annoyed. Mr. Jean didn't say anything, just patted the man's shoulder, and then delicately walked past several shelves. On the other side of the wall, there was an iron door. After Mr. Jean opened the iron door, there was a small room inside, only 4 or 5 square meters. He quickly closed the door. He never let anyone enter this small house that belonged to him. In the small house, there were all kinds of photos and newspaper clippings that were even more exaggerated than those in the studio outside. They completely covered every corner of the wall. In the early hours of this morning, there was a baby crying from an unknown beast in the lower city. A villager claimed to have seen a black shadow, and then found a body in a room that was eaten up. 3 female college students were hiking. When they were found, they had already lost their minds and became crazy, possessed. An unknown flying object hit a building, causing 12 deaths and 35 injuries. An old man living alone said that he saw his deceased wife standing at his bedside at night. Several headless bodies of girls were found in the sewer, but the skulls have not been found yet. The crisis of mankind? Is our world still safe? Mr. Jean took off his hat. There were 2 shocking scars on his forehead that were covered by the hat. He sat on the shabby chair. As soon as he sat down, he painfully covered his head. His whole body trembled as he cried. He swept away the objects on the table. The sound of the CNC milling machine completely changed the sound of objects falling to the ground. At this time, Mr. Jin's hands were trembling as he opened the drawer, took out a medicine bottle, and poured some pills into his mouth. He raised his head, closed his eyes, pursed his lips, and took deep breaths. Deep breaths, cold sweat. After a while, Mr. Jean slowly opened his eyes. Then, as if he had exhausted all his strength, he slumped on the chair. His eyes gradually became hazy. He stretched out his hand as if he wanted to grab something, and his face showed a trace of a strange but happy smile. When Wang Hu carried the box back to the destroyed guest house, the administration had already sent some people and the local police had also heard the news. For the local police station, an explosion was a very serious and vicious incident, so the ordinary police officers were unlucky. They needed someone who could control the situation. "These are all ferocious people from the mysterious organization, I can't handle them." At this time, Sirma looked at the lobby of the guest house after the explosion. He had always been a gun user, so he naturally knew how powerful the weapon was, and what kind of weapon could cause such damage? In his impression, this city had been peaceful for a long time. When was the last time a big incident happened, the explosion of the Audong pharmaceutical building? Or the earthquake? Sir Ma Xiaobao found some fragments inside, and the preliminary speculation is that they may be fragments of artillery shells. Sir Ma, what are you thinking? At this time, Ma Hao stepped back a few steps, looking up at the upper floor of the guest house, and said, Lin Feng, do you think that the so-called representatives of the Transcendence really live here? Officer Lin was startled and scratched his head. According to the information, it seems so. But I haven't seen them. We can't get in touch with them, and can only help them from outside. Shall we go in and have a look? At this time, Sir Ma said hesitantly, see what these transcendents look like, do they have 3 heads and 6 arms? I'll listen to the leader's arrangement. Officer Lin stood straight and said, F***CKU. Sir Ma wanted to curse, but didn't know how to do so. He snorted and then straightened his chest. Let's go in and investigate. Let's go, Officer Lin said tacitly. However, when Sir Ma just walked to the stairs leading to the upper floor, he was directly stopped by 2 agents from the administration. You can't get in touch with the people who live upstairs. The places you can investigate are limited to this lobby and the surroundings outside. Why should I? Officer Ma glared at him. This is my territory. Such a terrifying attack occurred in my territory. What gives you the right to do so? Please cooperate with our work. The agent who blocked the way seemed to be used to this kind of situation and said calmly, We have our duties. I hope Officer Ma can understand. Some things we can cooperate in private, and there's no need to report it. Once it's reported, you'll be the one who suffers. Don't embarrass everyone. Humph. Sir Ma suddenly sneered, and then nodded with his finger, turned around and left in an unparalleled manner. That's it? Officer Lin looked at his leader in disbelief. Old Ma said impatiently, What else can we do? In the afternoon, you and I were arranged to go home to rest. Old Lu, the director, is like a child in front of the administration. He's useless, what can we do? But if we don't investigate, we won't be able to do anything. We don't even know if this attack was targeted at the transcendents upstairs. Lin Feng shook his head. Then why did you ask us to come here? To clean the scene? You're right, we're here to clean the scene. Old Ma shrugged and said, Their manpower seems to be very tight. In the end, this matter still falls on our heads. You don't have to complain. We are all working for the country. Lin Feng said indignantly, But we can't let this murderer get away with it, right? To cause such destruction, the murderer must have a powerful weapon. It's dangerous for such a person to hide in our city. Sir Ma, you can't be a coward. Who said I'm a coward? I'm waiting for an opportunity, you know? Old Ma hummed. What opportunity? Old Ma suddenly said, Isn't the opportunity here? At this moment, Old Ma's eyes focused, and he saw a one-armed strong man carrying a big box walking towards them to the side of a young man. Old Wang, what's this? I chased him all the way, but I didn't find him, but I found this thing, it seems to be the weapon he used to attack. Wang Hu threw the box directly on the ground. Both of you, can we take a look at this thing? Sir Ma came to Bu Bugao with his police badge. Just a few glances, I won't waste your time. Bu Bugao thought for a moment and said, Okay, you can take a look, but you can't take it away. I suspect that this is the weapon used by the murderer. You can't take it away, I can't take it away either. Old Ma squatted down with a smile and opened the suitcase directly. He recognized what was inside at a glance. Good heavens! Officer Ma's face changed slightly. Who is so powerful to be able to get such a thing? Sir Ma seemed to be too excited, and directly picked up the parts and looked at them carefully. Hey! What are you doing? Didn't I say that you can only look and not touch? Bu Bugao suddenly stopped him. Officer Lin came up instantly, His eyes were filled with little stars, and he said enthusiastically, "Agent Boo! Agent Boo, right? Wow. How did you become an agent at such a young age? The person I admire the most in my life is a young and promising man like you. Agent Boo, can you give me an autograph?" Don't think that I can. Where to sign? It's not as good as you say. Luck. Of course, I have the ability. Ah ha ha ha. Wang, who couldn't stand it anymore, shook his head and walked to Ma Haud, saying indifferently, "Did you see anything? This thing seems to be." Officer Ma wasn't sure. "It seems to have just been made. It's very rough." Just made? Chapter 1931. Officer Lin turned the white shirt upside down and put it on again reluctantly, while tidying up his sleeves. "Sir Ma, have you found anything?" he asked directly. Bu Gao had already collected the suitcase, and was about to submit it to his superior. The police officers seemed to only be able to clean up the scene. "This rocket launcher was made by hand." Ma Haud frowned and said, "This is not good news." "What do you mean?" Lin Feng asked confusedly. Ma Haud said directly, "Think about it. If the murderer just got the weapons from the arms dealers, although it's dangerous, we still know who the arms dealers are. We can find some clues no matter what. Besides, it's impossible for there to be no news about such a large scale of arms. However, if it's made by a person himself, the situation is different." Lin Feng reacted instantly. "We've lost the clue." "Not only that," Sir Ma said worriedly, "I'm afraid we're facing a criminal with a profound knowledge of explosives. If he can make a rocket launcher, he can make more, or even other high-power explosives." Lin Feng rubbed his head and said, "Every time I handle a case, I'm most afraid of encountering such a technical criminal." "It's not that there's no clue." Sir Ma thought for a while and said, "Since the one-armed man from the administration brought back such a suitcase, it means that the murderer left immediately after attacking the hostel. The one-armed man tracked the murderer all the way to the footbridge, and then the suitcase was thrown down. The distance is not short." "I understand." Officer Lin suddenly shivered and said quickly, "I'll check all the streets, shops, and even the car's recording devices along the way." "Go ahead." Ma Haud nodded. "It looks like we're going to be busy today. Don't let the experts from the administration underestimate our professional ability." "Got it. I promise I won't let you down." Things happened one after another. Yen Xiaoxi, who had just transported the bodies of her colleagues back, was in an extremely bad mood. Attack? Section Chief Yen, who had just returned to his office, frowned after hearing his subordinates report. "When did this happen?" "At lunchtime." "Who was on duty at that time?" "It's a junior agent called Bu Gao, and there are a few other logistical support." The subordinate quickly said, "Many things have happened, so there should have been more than 3 junior agents on guard duty, but they were temporarily reassigned." "All right, I know." Yen Xiaoxi waved her hand. "Let this Bu Gao come and see me. Also, how is the investigation of the murdered non-Earth priest?" "For now, there's no progress. This is the last set of photos taken when the drone was destroyed." Yen Xiaoxi said coldly, "They might have something to do with Boss Fu's death. Besides, I suspect that they've already entered the city. Take it. You must find these guys as soon as possible." The subordinate took a look at the photocopied photos and was immediately stunned. This looks like a Western dragon? Black dragon." Yen Xiaoxi nodded. "On the way back, I've already contacted the Magician Association. They'll be sending a representative over soon. This matter has to be done in secret. We can't let the other transcendent ambassadors know about it." "I'll do it well." The subordinate nodded. After assigning a few more tasks, Yen Xiaoxi went in search of the evil god of Fire Cloud. The evil god of Fire Cloud was the chief commander of this extraordinary summit, although Yen Xiaoxi was in charge of all minor tasks. However, she did not find the evil god immediately. She was told that the evil god had run out of the city early in the morning, saying that it was going to the nearby mountains to pick some herbs. Yen Xiaoxi had no choice but to return to the office. According to the schedule, she was supposed to go to the conference venue in the afternoon to do a final security check. However, Section Chief Yen did not have the mood to do that, so she arranged for 2 reliable subordinates to go in her place. Section Chief, the Magician Association's representative, is here. They're just downstairs. At this moment, the secretary pushed open the door and reported, "It's a lady named Elizabeth and her personal assistant." Yen Xiaoxi took a deep breath and said slowly, "Let them in." The person who came was not Qi Yen or the Ice Tower Master. It was Elizabeth, which made Yen Xiaoxi quite surprised. Because according to the information, this girl named Elizabeth was rumored to be the last disciple of the Radiance Tower Master, the strongest Tower Master in the inhuman domain. A mischievous head poked out from the flower trough on the sidewalk, followed by the head of a girl with big eyes. She sized them up. "Uncle Pangolin, what are we looking at?" "Shoo! Don't talk, those guys might still be nearby. Lower your voice." "Oh, okay." The little butterfly nodded seriously at this time and then asked curiously, "But, Uncle Pangolin, who are those people? Why are you with them?" The pangolin had no choice but to explain what happened to him. "They seem to be here for Lord Long, they must be up to no good. Fortunately, I was smart and found a chance to save you. Otherwise, you would have fallen into those guys' hands like me. Let me tell you, those guys are very fierce, especially the one in white, he even broke my hand." "Uncle Pangolin, you're injured?" "Yes, I'm in so much pain. Ayayaya, it hurts again. Pianxian, help me rub it, yes, that's it. My chest hurts too, I must have been knocked down. I need to rub my chest too, otherwise I'll die from the pain." The little butterfly slapped the pangolin's head and said, "I'm angry. Don't, I'm not in pain anymore, it's amazing." The pangolin smiled awkwardly. The little butterfly stood up from the flower trough and said, "No, they're here for Sister Long, I have to tell her immediately." Then, the little butterfly picked up the phone. The phone was connected in an instant. Luo Dance didn't hear Kelowna Shinryu's voice at first, but the clicking sound of the mechanical keyboard. "If you have something to report, I'm dismissed. I'm very busy." "Sister Long, don't tell me you're typing on the keyboard, holding the mouse, and holding the phone between your neck? Spit it out." The little butterfly gave a start and covered the phone with her hand, asking in a low voice, "Sister Long, are you okay? What can happen to me? If you keep dilly-dallying, I'll really be in trouble. F***CK. Who can give me big blood, big blood? I want big blood. Is there no one outside?" "No. There's no one." "Spit it out." "Then, that's okay." Luo Dance thought for a while and said, "I'll come back later. What do you want to eat tonight? I'll buy it." "Fried chicken, forget it." Kelowna Shinryu at the other end of the phone suddenly changed the topic. "Eat something healthy. Let's eat grass tonight." Luo Dance felt amazing that Sister Long actually changed her temperament. The little butterfly who was comforted suddenly showed a motherly smile. "Okay, I know. Beep." What did Master Long say?" the pangolin asked uneasily at this time. "Sister Long said nothing happened?" The little butterfly shook her head and said, "She's at home, busy with something. It seems that no one is looking for her." "Uncle Pangolin, are you mistaken?" "Is that so?" The pangolin gave a start. "In fact, I don't understand what these guys are talking about. Maybe I misheard?" "Forget it, since Master Long said nothing happened, then there must be no problem. In this case, I won't stay here. Anyway, I'll go to find some old friends in the city." The pangolin left hurriedly. The little butterfly blinked her eyes. What was she going to do? Right, walk the dog, walk Mr. Fafner. Thinking of Mr. Fafner, Luo Dance quickly turned over and looked for him in the flower trough, only to find that the rope leading to Fafner's clue was untied. "Oh no! Mr. Fafner is missing!" Elizabeth was arranged to a small reception room, accompanied by Zhong Luoyue, who had just returned to the hotel. But now Zhong Luoyue wore a white half-mask that covered her eyes. Why do you wear a mask? My family has some connections in the capital. Zhong Luoyue said indifferently. The administration may have my personal information. I've been missing for some time. It's not good to appear in the sight of the administration at this time. How about this, when you introduce me, you can just call me you. The vampire girl nodded her head. Sorry to keep you two waiting. At this time, Yen Xiaoxi came in with one of her subordinates. After a brief introduction. This time, I invited you two here because I hope your association can give me some advice. Yen Xiaoxi didn't beat around the bush, and went straight to the point. She asked someone to put the photocopied photos on the table. Do you recognize the creature in the photos? Zhong Luoyue took the photos and handed them to Elizabeth. She also looked at them. It seems to be a dragon. The vampire girl said hesitantly, then frowned. Section Chief Yen, where did you take these photos? Before that, I hope you two can answer my question first. Yen Xiaoxi said seriously, this is about a vicious incident. I know your association plays the role of order in the inhuman domain, so I hope you two can adhere to the principle of fairness and justice. Elizabeth didn't know how to respond. Zhong Luoyue said indifferently at this time, Section Chief Yen, I also have some photos here. I don't know if your association can give us some useful information, but we can't tell you the reason for the time being. I hope your association can adhere to the principle of international friendship and mutual benefit and help us. Ms. Yu, right? Yen Xiaoxi squinted and chuckled. We have a patrolling drone that was shot down from high up in the sky. This is the last photo taken by the drone. This black dragon and the few people on it can't be found in the information. Zhong Luoyue said slowly, the inhuman domain is a huge system. There are many inhumans and their descendants living in it. Even our association may not be able to record all of them, let alone those who choose to stay in the present world and not enter the inhuman domain. Section Chief Yen, we may not be able to give you any useful information. We'll do our best. Yen Xiaoxi smiled and said, for the transcendence, it's like crossing the river by feeling the stones. Everything is unknown, and we're in a fog. Maybe sometimes we can't really see the situation clearly. At this time, it might not be suitable for us to advance based on past experience. Zhong Luoyue thought for a while, and then whispered a few words in Elizabeth's ear. The vampire girl nodded and immediately picked up the photo and looked at it seriously. This vampire girl had the authority to open the library of the Radiance Tower's 103,000 books. Aside from the books that she had to study, the vampire girl liked to read books about all sorts of anecdotes. Furthermore, the vampire's powerful brain also gave her the ability to remember everything she saw. If I'm not wrong, Elizabeth thought for a while and said, this should be the legendary Black Dragon Ajuan. Black Dragon Ajuan? Section Chief Yen frowned. Black Dragon Ajuan was the companion of the former inhuman sword saint, Duke Roland. Elizabeth nodded and said, Duke Roland was a legendary hero of the inhuman domain. At the same time, he was also a powerful dragon knight. However, Duke Roland had passed away for some time. Rumor has it that Black Dragon Ajuan disappeared after Duke Roland passed away. There hasn't been any news about Black Dragon Ajuan for a long time. Then what about the other people on this Black Dragon? Yen Xiaoxi asked. Elizabeth shook her head and said, I'm sorry, I really don't know these people. However, if Section Chief Yen allows, please let me take these photos. I'll contact the association's headquarters to check it after I go back. Of course. Yen Xiaoxi nodded and directly handed the photos to Elizabeth. Then, Miss Elizabeth, can you tell me more about Black Dragon Ajuan and Duke Roland? Sword Saint, Duke Roland, Black Dragon Ajuan, legendary heroes who became famous on the battlefield of the European continent 100 years ago. Their deeds were widely spread in the inhuman domain. It was not a secret. With Zhong Liyue's permission, Elizabeth began to talk about some of the things she knew. Section Chief is now meeting important guests. Please wait for a while. I'll call you when it's ready. In the hall of the temporary headquarters, Bu Bugao listened nervously. It's okay. I'll just wait here. How could Bu Bugao, who wanted to become the agency's star of tomorrow, sit still when he was invited by Section Chief Yen of the agency? He changed into a new set of black clothes and combed his hair to look like an adult. He even sprayed some cologne and cleaned his leather shoes. He quickly dragged Wang Hu over. Section Chief Yen is meeting you. Why did he drag me over? Wang Hu asked, puzzled. Old Wang, this is a good opportunity to show your face in front of Section Chief Yen. Bu Bugao said earnestly. You can't just be a logistician for the rest of your life, right? Look at me. Bu Bugao patted his chest. Look at me. I look like I'm going to be promoted step by step. How can I stay in the position of a junior agent? I'll become an intermediate agent, a senior agent, and a senior agent. You have to catch up to me first. We're the stars of tomorrow. We can't lose one of us. Not interested. Wang Hu shook his head. I don't like it here. I'll wait for you in the parking lot outside. Then, ignoring Bu Bugao's shouts, Wang Hu walked straight out of the hall of the temporary headquarters. Bu Bugao had no choice but to mutter, there's no other way. I can only mention old Wang's name when the time comes and try to get him an official establishment. Facing the glass door, Bu Bugao began to tidy up his adult-like hairstyle again. Old Wang. Wang Hu bought a bottle of vitamin milk from a convenience store outside the headquarters. He took out a straw and sat in the flower trough outside the parking lot. His eyes were sometimes blank, and sometimes he looked straight ahead. He seemed to be thinking about something and was in a daze. Can I take a look at your arm? Suddenly, a man in a white suit with a peachwood sword in his hand suddenly appeared beside Wang Hu. Wang Hu raised his head in confusion and frowned. He didn't understand what this guy was saying. You don't understand? The thin man in the white suit also frowned. He then slowly reached out his hand and approached Wang Hu. Wang Hu locked his eyes on the man's palm and remained motionless. Until the thin man in the white suit finally grasped his wrist, Wang Hu still didn't move. He didn't feel the other party's malice for the time being, so he decided to wait and see what this guy wanted to do. After the man in the white suit successfully grabbed Wang Hu's arm, his eyes lit up, and then his other hand directly touched Wang Hu's arm. The man in the white suit grabbed Wang Hu's arm with both hands, lifted it, and carefully wiped it a few times, kneaded it. What a well-tempered overlord's arm! The man in the white suit looked at Wang Hu at this time and muttered to himself, no less muscle, the limit of the human body, old Wang. Wang Hu finally frowned and looked at the man in the white suit. This guy. What does he mean by touching me all the time? ######PS1. Recommend the old demon child's new book. I'm the only one in the world who doesn't know that I'm a master. PS2. Thank you to my book friend, Jasper Yen, for your cuteness. I'm a leg accessory that you can play with today. PS3. 0 to 1. PS4. As usual. Chapter 1932. Although he didn't know what this guy was talking about, Wang Hu's instinctive disgust made him shake his arm, intending to pull it back. However, to Wang Hu's surprise, his arm couldn't bounce off the man's palm. This guy's fingers were like iron pliers, still pinching Wang Hu's arm. A trace of ferocity flashed in Wang Hu's eyes. The man in white clearly felt this trace of ferocity, and was even more surprised. You are an excellent warrior, I can feel the primitive beast in you. You are really a terrifying warrior, but what are you confused about? This is not the real you. What are you talking about? Wang Hu frowned, the feeling of disgust in his heart had climbed to the limit. Without thinking, he directly punched the man in white. At this time, the man in white opened his palms and overlapped them, directly blocking Wang Hu's fist. The man in white took 2 steps back before he could stand firm. Not only was he not angry, but he was even happier, and his eyes were shining. I was right, you are a natural warrior. Wang Hu still didn't understand, but after the punch, regardless of whether it was effective or not, the feeling of irritation in his heart decreased slightly. He frowned. I don't know you, don't provoke me if there's nothing. Sometimes I can't control myself and use violence. The man in white didn't understand Wang Hu's words, but this didn't affect his usual view. A true expert is completely capable of transmitting his will through his fists. The man in white took a deep breath. You are a natural warrior, you can feel what my fist wants to express. Take this. A punch came. At this time, Wang Hu's eyes instantly focused, and his only remaining arm seemed to be activated, clenching his fist all of a sudden. In the face of the man in white's fist, a sense of irritation exploded in Wang Hu's heart. Finally, Wang Hu made a move. He took the opportunity and kicked the man in white's fist away. That's right, he used a kick. You. The man in white seemed to be in disbelief. Why didn't you punch? However, Wang Hu ignored him. He instantly exerted strength in his legs and kicked the man in the abdomen. Thud. The strength of this kick was extremely shocking. It actually sent the man in white flying 2 meters away, and he fell to the ground. At this moment, the irritation in Wang Hu's heart subsided a little. I said, don't mess with me. Wang Hu said coldly, goodbye. With that, Wang Hu turned around and left. Before he left, he still remembered to return the bottle of Vitasol to the boss of the little merchandise store. However, an inexplicable sense of irritation made Wang Hu unwilling to stay in the agency's temporary command center any longer. He simply sent a text message to Bu Bu Gao, saying that he would return to the guest house where he stood guard first. At this time, the man in white got up and scathed. He waved his hand and patted the dust on his clothes. He looked at Wang Hu's back and said loudly, "You are a warrior. You will be a warrior for life. We will meet again, as long as you are still a warrior." Wang Hu heard the man in white's shout, but he ignored him and walked straight away. The man in white waited until Wang Hu had completely disappeared before he chuckled. He looked up at the building in front of him. This should be the address. "Excuse me, who are you looking for?" Of course, the lobby of the command center was not a place anyone could enter as they wished. The man in white did not seem to have any intention of barging in and was stopped at the gate guard position. "I am waiting for someone," the man in white said indifferently. Waiting for someone? The agent at the gate guard position was startled. He naturally had the ability to communicate with foreign friends, but he was really curious at this time. "Excuse me, who are you waiting for?" The man in white used the peachwood sword as a crutch, closed his eyes, and stood directly in front of the gate of the command center. "Someone strong. F***ck. What kind of trick is this Chinibu uncle playing?" The guard subconsciously picked up the phone at this time. "A few people are here. Someone is causing trouble here." Half an hour had passed since the meeting with the representative of the Magician Association, Ylizabeth. Yen Xiaoxi learned a lot about Black Dragon Ajuin from Ylizabeth, but she still had no clue as to why Ajuin would appear here. No one knew why a legendary-level creature like the Inhuman Domain had barged into the city where the summit meeting was being held. Yen Xiaoxi was filled with an ominous feeling as if something bad was happening one after another. There was a knock on the door. After the subordinate entered, he did not speak immediately. Yen Xiaoxi understood and looked at Ylizabeth and Mizu, nodding and saying, "Both of you, I have some work to do." At this time, Zhong Luoyue took the opportunity to say, "In that case, Section Chief Yen, we will take our leave first. As for the identity of the person in the photo, we will verify it as soon as possible. We won't disturb Section Chief Yen from your work." "Okay then, I will arrange a car to send the two of you away." Yen Xiaoxi originally wanted to keep them for a little longer, but now she had no choice but to agree and directly left the small meeting room with her subordinate. I still have a lot of things to say about Black Dragon Audouin. At this time, the vampire girl was puzzled. Moreover, isn't this a very good opportunity to interact more with the people from the Divine Land Administration? This should be good for our association, right? Zhong Luoyue rubbed Elisabeth's head and said, "You've already said everything in one go. What else can you say in the future? If you don't finish speaking, there will be more opportunities to meet. Regardless of whether the people from the other forces know that we came to the authority today, sooner or later, someone will find out." Elisabeth nodded and asked, "Do you mean that I only say a little bit every time?" "More or less." Zhong Luoyue smiled and said, "If you don't understand, just write it down first. You'll understand slowly. Just go back, there's no need to stay here. We've actually gained a lot today." In fact, she still did not understand, but as long as it was you who said it, there should be no problem. You always got along well with everyone and was able to quickly form friendships with them. Elisabeth was extremely envious of that. This person called Miss Yu. See if you can find out about her background. In the corridor, Yan Xiaoxi suddenly instructed her subordinate, "The last disciple of the first tower master seems easier to get to know. This Miss Yu is really like a fox." "I know what to do." The subordinate nodded. "Why are you looking for me in such a hurry?" Yan Xiaoxi asked. The subordinate quickly said, "Just now, a foreign man caused trouble outside the command center. A few of our agents, including a senior agent, were injured. In the end, we had no choice but to use some equipment to capture the troublemaker." Yan Xiaoxi instantly stopped in her tracks and frowned. "How many? How many exactly?" The subordinate lowered his head and stammered, "A total of 3 senior agents, 7 intermediate agents, 13 junior agents, and more than 10 supporters. 30 to 40 people, and we had no choice but to use our equipment to capture him?" Yan Xiaoxi's expression changed. "No. Section Chief, we don't know where this guy came from. He only used a wooden sword, but we couldn't stop him." The subordinate broke out in cold sweat. "I'm sorry, where is he? I'll go and see him." Yan Xiaoxi frowned. In a place like this where all supernatural beings were forbidden, someone who could still have such terrifying combat power was definitely a terrifying martial artist. "We've captured him and locked him in the interrogation room downstairs." At this moment, another subordinate hurried over and said from afar, "Section Chief, it's confirmed that the troublemaker who was captured is one of the people in the photo. He's wearing a white suit." Section Chief Yan Xiaoxi had already strode out with a cold expression. "Mr. Fafner. Under the bench in the park. Mr. Fafner. Inside the open trash can. Mr. Fafner, where are you? In the temporary pet toilet by the roadside." The little butterfly monster was looking for Mr. Fafner everywhere, but Luo Dance couldn't find him all the way. But the little butterfly monster wasn't in a hurry. Perhaps Mr. Fafner would go back by himself, because when Mr. Fafner first arrived, he would often go missing. But the next day, he would appear in his wooden house and loudly curse Sister Long M on the street. Luo Dance suddenly stopped. She saw a young man in black and a fat girl standing in the waiting area in front of the red light. They looked around, as if they didn't know what to do with the current environment. "Aren't they those people before?" Luo Dance gave a start, subconsciously walking to the young man and the fat girl who lowered her head and didn't know what to do. "Excuse me, is there anything I can do for you?" The fat girl raised her head timidly, while the young man in black frowned and immediately said, "You seem to be the one beside Fafner?" "I'm Luo Dance." Butterfly Monster smiled at this time. A smile like a flower. The black-clothed young man was suddenly startled. He opened his mouth slightly as if he had been struck by lightning. He muttered to himself, "I'm going to die, I'm going to die. How can there be such a beautiful smile in this world? I'm Lai, hello. I'm Audouin." The young man in black rushed forward at this time. This is the abbreviation. My full name is Littlefield. Remember it? Listen. Jose San Diego Francesco de Paula K. I'm Parizio Crito Riz Blasco, Leia. How about we find a place to sit down first? Butterfly Monster smiled at this time, tilting her head. It doesn't seem very good to stand here. Oh. The young man in black instantly nodded with joy. Okay, we'll go wherever you want. Looking at the cheerful young man in black and the timid fat girl, Butterfly Monster couldn't help but think, it seems to be a very interesting two people. Then let's go there. Butterfly Monster pointed at a beautifully decorated dessert shop across the road at this time. I don't know if I'll meet Sister Yu Yi here today. Yesterday, I chatted with Sister Yu Yi in this dessert shop. Sir Ma sat in the car. Lin Feng was checking the surveillance videos of their shops from the nearby shops one by one. Officer Ma's eyes were scattered, seemingly a little tired, and he saw a good dessert shop diagonally across the road. A few people just walked in. A very fat girl? Old Ma shook his head, thinking whether to pack some desserts to feed Mrs. Ma after work. But he didn't know when he could get off work. Middle-aged men have so many worries. Sir Ma opened the window a little irritably, preparing to light a cigarette. Just as the cigarette was about to reach his mouth, suddenly a hand reached over with a lighter, lit it. Thank you, Ma Howd said subconsciously, looking up. His lips trembled and the cigarette fell down. Yi Yen? The one who lit the cigarette was Yi Yen. The door opened and closed. Yi Yen had already sat in the back seat of the car at this time. In his words, the weather outside was too hot, so he got in the car to take advantage of the air conditioner. You brat, last time you ran away without saying a word. When did you come back? Ma Howd was surprised and happy at this time, but in the end, he was more happy. They sent me and some other colleagues to investigate something, Yi Yen said casually at this time. Ma Howd frowned, tentatively asking, Is it because of the meeting? No. Yi Yen shook his head and said, The meeting is handled by many countries and agencies with headaches. I came here this time to investigate an organization that has recently appeared. Well, how can I help you? Ma Howd thought about it, and he immediately understood the purpose of Yi Yan's visit. This brat was always the first to solve a case. In fact, you may have begun to contact this organization. Yi Yen said seriously at this time, I suspect that the explosion that happened in the west of the city at noon was the work of this organization. What did you say? Sir Ma was shocked for a moment, and his whole body bounced up and then directly hit the roof of the car. He rubbed his head and said with a dignified expression, Don't keep me in suspense. Yi Yen said, They call themselves ice cream pudding. They specialize in hunting some special creatures and humans who are suspected to have awakened superpowers. Ice pudding what? Ice cream pudding. Yi Yen shrugged and said, This group of people seems to have a deep hatred for transcendence and inhumans. In fact, the first case happened in a small town in France. We found the body of a vampire nailed to a cross. There were a total of 108 wooden nails on it, and the method was quite cruel. Similar incidents had occurred many times during this period of time. The victims had all been brutally tortured to death. I came back this time because there is information that this ice cream pudding organization seems to have come here. In other words, Ma Howd said with a dignified expression, There is a group of anti-transcendent terrorists in my territory? Yi Yen said, Wrong, it should be said that there is a group of anti-transcendent terrorists in this city, where transcendents are banned. So, why are they called ice cream and pudding? Ice cream pudding. Hashtag PS. 1/1. Chapter 1933. When Officer Lin came back, there was a smell of cigarette smoke in the car, even hazy. Why don't you open the window? Lin Feng hurriedly opened the door and window. But Ma Howd seemed to be thinking about something, as if he didn't hear it. After a while, Lin Feng got on the car again and asked tentatively, Sir Ma? Nothing, I'm thinking about where to buy milk powder. My feed is used up. Ma Hao shook his head and immediately asked, By the way, did you find anything? Lin Feng had to shake his head. Nothing, but I copied down the license plates of several cars parked nearby. I hope the recorder in their cars can find something. Officer Ma nodded and then got off the car directly. You go back to the station first. I have something to do and will call you later. Sir Ma, Sir Ma? Officer Ma hurriedly stopped a taxi at this time and then got on directly. Officer Lin had no choice but to drive back alone. In the dessert shop near the street, the young man in black gestured and the fat girl whispered one or two sentences from time to time. After a while, Luo Dance finally figured out some of the causes and consequences. There was a piece of ice cream pudding in the mouth of the little butterfly monster. She loved this dessert the most. It was cold and melted in her mouth. That is to say, you were caught by a man named Farrell to deal with some terrible enemies. Luo Dance thought for a while and said, Then, you came to Sister Long for this reason? The young man in black. Audubon kept nodding. Farrell is an old lunatic. He can do anything. You have to be careful. But, the Mr. Farrell you mentioned didn't seem to meet Sister Long, right? Luo Dance said, I just called her and she said nothing happened. Nothing? Ajuin couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment before shaking his head. We slipped away while Farlier was looking for trouble with those guys outside the hospital. I'm not sure what happened after that. But it should be a good thing that we didn't look for him, right? The little butterfly demon thought about it seriously and suddenly asked curiously, In that case, weren't Miss Leia and Mr. Ajuin kidnapped? That's right. We were kidnapped. Ajuin looked like a victim. We're really pitiful. We were kidnapped to this foreign country and had our powers banned here. Now we're penniless and homeless. As Leia listened, she suddenly felt that something was amiss. She subconsciously looked at Ajuin, only to see Ajuin continue to spit saliva everywhere. We can only stay in this city for the time being. If we leave, that madman Farrell will continue to kidnap us once he finds us. You see, we are no match for this old madman. Only here can we barely contend with him, who is also unable to use his power. That's not what you said before. Didn't you say to return to the inhuman realm immediately and hide in a place where Farrell can't find us? It sounds really pitiful. The little butterfly demon nodded sympathetically. Don't you think so? Ajuin said emotionally. Leia and I were living peacefully in our own homes. We can't even bear to kill a rabbit. Don't look at me like that. I actually eat grass and never kill. Look at Leia, she's harmless. She's the type who would be afraid even if she picked up a kitchen knife. The chubby girl could only awkwardly put away the sword she had been holding on her back. Then what can I help you with? The little butterfly demon thought for a while and asked. Ajuin quickly said, Miss, if you can take Leia and me in, we'll be eternally grateful. Don't worry, we won't freeload. I can work, I can do any kind of rough work. My endurance is great. Once we collect enough money, we'll leave this place. When Yen Xiaoxi came to the interrogation room where the troublemaker was locked up, she saw the man in white being restrained by a circle of flat steel rings. Not only that, the man's hands and feet were also handcuffed with special shackles. This was already the treatment of an extremely serious criminal, and an extremely serious criminal of the administration. In the room, there were 4 mid-level investigators with special equipment in their hands, guarding the white-clothed man at all times. However, the white-clothed man seemed to be rather quiet at the moment, resting with his eyes closed. There was a wooden sword on the table. Yen Xiaoxi didn't say anything. She picked up the wooden sword and sized it up. This was a wooden sword made of high-quality mahogany core. It looked extraordinary, but the mahogany sword was completely different from the foreign man in white. You can leave first. Section Chief Yen waved her hand. The agents nodded and walked out. They soon came to another room and looked at everything in the interrogation room through a one-way mirror. The man in white opened his eyes slowly. At this moment, Yen Xiaoxi slowly spread out the photos on the table and said, "These are the photos that we took from a drone that was shot down. Without a doubt, the person in these photos is you. Why did you destroy our drone? Which transcendent power do you belong to?" After the man in white sized Yen Xiaoxi up, he suddenly said, "You're also a natural warrior, but it's a waste. It's really a waste." Yen Xiaoxi frowned slightly. "We found out that the black dragon in this photo is called Ajuan. He's the partner of the inhuman domain's sword sage, Duke Roland. Then, who are the other two women?" The man in white said, "Why did you give up your talent? Do you know how many people are born without talent like yours?" Section Chief Yen moved closer and stared at the man in white with narrowed eyes. Then, she spread out 3 more photos on the table. The photos were of Fu Mingxian and the other 2 agents who died tragically in the small valley. "Have you seen these 3 people before?" The man in white closed his eyes and didn't respond. "It's fine if you don't want to say," Yen Xiaoxi said calmly. "We have all the time in the world. The administration has a place called the Heavenly Prison. Ever since the administration was established, those who were locked in the Heavenly Prison, be it big demons or powerful demons, have never been able to get out." The man in white remained unmoved. Yen Xiaoxi chuckled and said, "Recently, we've been planning to build a new transcendent prison in this forbidden city. I think the new transcendent prison will be able to hold powerful transcendents like you. It's up to you if you want to tell me. The next time I see you, it'll be when I think of you." "Shinryu from the east," the man in white suddenly said. Yen Xiaoxi frowned. "Why is this guy related to Shinryu from Kelowna?" "I'm looking for Shinryu from the east." The man in white spoke again, "But maybe it's not Shinryu from the east. It's just a person that Shinryu from the east wants me to look for. Maybe it's a test." "What do you mean?" Yen Xiaoxi asked with a frown. The man in white said calmly, "Before coming here, I went to Shinryu's hospital and bumped into a mysterious woman there. She gave me an address and gave me a photo of a person. She said that the person was Shinryu from the east." Yen Xiaoxi's face stiffened, seemingly having thought of something. The man in white said, "I was thinking, if the person she wants me to look for is Shinryu from the east, or if the woman herself is Shinryu from the east. She wants me to look for someone else just to transfer the responsibility. Of course, I'm indeed interested in the person she wants me to look for. So, no matter what, I'm here." "Is this the person she wants you to look for?" Yen Xiaoxi whipped out her mobile phone and showed him a photo. The man in white glanced at it and nodded. "Indeed." Yen Xiaoxi could not help but laugh wryly. "She's capable of doing it. That woman is indeed capable of doing such a thing." Advisor Long from the agency. "Why are you looking for Kelowna's Shinryu?" Yen Xiaoxi asked with a sigh of relief. "I'm looking for a partner," the man in white said bluntly. "A strong partner to fight against those guys with me." "What kind of guys?" Yen Xiaoxi asked instinctively. The man in white said, "You don't have the right to know for now. Perhaps you'll find out when you face your identity as a warrior again. I'm not looking down on you, but I don't want you to stop because of fear before you regain your glory as a warrior. That's an enemy that can bring true despair. The more you're like this, the more I want to find out." Section Chief Yen sneered. "But since you don't want to tell me, I don't plan to force you. Compared to your unproven reason, I'm more interested in your answer to another question. Have you seen the 3 people in the photo?" The man in white shook his head and said calmly, "They're dead, aren't they? Besides, they're your comrades. You think I killed them, right?" "Indeed, you were the one who killed them, right?" Yen Xiaoxi asked coldly. "I told you, I don't know them," the man in white said expressionlessly. "I can only sense the pain and anger in you. No matter what, you can't hide the feeling of losing an important partner and comrade." Yen Xiaoxi opened her mouth and made eye contact with the mysterious man in white. She seemed to have sensed something at this moment, but her senses were blocked by the thick gauze. "Don't tell me you're also," she said. Yen Xiaoxi came out, but she could not get a single word out of the man in white. "Section Chief, send them to the interrogation room. I don't believe they'll be able to say anything under our interrogation. This kind of person's mental state has surpassed their physical state." Yen Xiaoxi shook her head. "No matter how much pain they're going through physically, this kind of person's mental state will not be shaken. Using torture will only waste our energy. This guy clearly has something to do with Boss Fu's death. Are we just going to leave him be?" the subordinate said angrily. After some thought, Yen Xiaoxi said, "In order to pry open their mouths, we'll have to start from their mental weakness. Is my master not back yet?" Consultant Huiyun left a message this morning saying that she went to the suburbs to pick herbs. "She hasn't been back since," the subordinate said helplessly. "Her mobile phone is switched off. We can't contact her at all, but her location is normal. She's indeed at Longtu Mountain in the suburbs." Longtu Mountain? Yen Xiaoxi seemed to have recalled something. "I remember that Longtu Mountain seems to be, that's right. According to the investigation of the Earth Vein Survey Team, the Dragon Head Mountain in the outskirts seems to be the origin of the underground spirit vein in this area. Therefore, the spirit energy around the Dragon Head Mountain is quite dense. Sometimes you can even find some good precious medicinal herbs." "Okay, got it." Yen Xiaoxi nodded. "Inform me as soon as Master returns." "Section Chief, there's one more thing," the subordinate quickly said. "The junior investigator, Bu Gao, whom you asked my mother to call over, has been waiting for a long time. Section Chief, do you still want to see him? This was another case, the case of the hostel being bombed. Ask him to come to my office." Yen Xiaoxi looked at the time on her watch. "Give him 10 minutes. In the suburbs, in the Longtu Mountain area, a silhouette quickly traversed through the mountain forest. From time to time, it would let out a long whistle. Although the sound was loud, it miraculously did not alarm the small animals that lived in the mountain forest. It was more like the sound of a flute, a sound that allowed the animals to be quiet. The figure stopped abruptly. "It's okay to move my muscles." Huiyun Evil God smiled. It was as if he was carrying a few mountains in the city. For someone of his level of strength, even walking was difficult. It would be better for him to go to the suburbs from time to time to release his excess energy. "Is this the place?" Huiyun Evil God looked at the bottomless hole in front of him and immediately jumped into it. The deeper he went, the steeper the hole became. The sharp stone edges could even cut his skin easily. Such a dangerous place, even the gods would not be willing to come. After spending a lot of effort, Huiyun Evil God finally fell into the depths of the hole. He already felt the flow of an exceptionally pure spiritual power. Huiyun Evil God's eyes lit up. His superhuman touch allowed him to easily follow the flow of this spiritual power, moving forward in the maze-like hole. It didn't take long for Firecloud's sketch to see a set of azure river, hanging in the air. At the location of the earth vein, there was a huge azure river with no end in sight. A long river of spiritual power. Sure enough, it's here. Huiyun Evil God's eyes lit up at this time. He immediately covered his body with true power and jumped into this long river of spiritual power. This kind of pure spiritual power, for an ordinary person, was like a big poison, instantly able to burst a person's body. Huiyun Evil God was a martial artist's limit. The amount of true power that his body could hold was already the limit. He simply could not increase it by much. Suddenly rushing into this kind of pure spiritual power river would cause the true power in his body to become chaotic. Finding this place was only Huiyun Evil God's conjecture. The city's restrictive spell, could it be caused by the changes in the underground spiritual veins of this area? In the capital, there was a large defensive array laid down by the blind mister of the cloth path, when he was young, using several underground dragon veins as the foundation. Although this large array could not achieve the same restrictive spell as this city, but when it was activated, it was able to suppress invading enemies to a large extent. Therefore, Huiyun evil god had such a conjecture. Restrictive spell should not be something that could be done by human power. But if it was combined with the power of heaven and earth, the spiritual veins of the earth, perhaps it could be done? There's someone. While he was thinking, Huiyun evil god saw a figure in the depths of this long river of spiritual power. A bald man with purple eyebrows sitting cross-legged in the depths of this long river of spiritual power? This guy, could it be that he was the main culprit that caused the city's restrictive spell? Huiyun evil god's eyes congealed. In an instant, he activated his true power and rushed towards this mysterious bald man with purple eyebrows in the middle of the long river of spiritual power. If I were you, I wouldn't get too close. This place is very dangerous. Suddenly, Huiyun evil god heard a voice. It was the voice of this mysterious man. Huiyun evil god instantly frowned. He instinctively felt a terrifying feeling descend, his body instantly tensed up, and he heard some strange sounds. It was like the sound of chains moving. What is this? At this moment, hundreds of chains with cold light actually appeared in front of Huiyun evil god. These chains were vertical, like water, flowing unceasingly, filling the surroundings of Huiyun evil god. Some chains even raised their heads. The front end was like a drill bit, slowly rotating at this moment. Like a poisonous snake. These are the chains that protect me. At the end of the long river of spiritual power, the bald man sitting cross-legged slowly opened his eyes. At the same time, they are also the chains that punish me. Who the hell are you? Huiyun evil god frowned. These chains were incomparably strange. He was subconsciously afraid, but this bald man with purple eyebrows who opened his eyes gave him a completely different feeling. This bald man with purple eyebrows actually had a benevolent countenance, like an old monk. His face was actually faintly suffused with a benevolent expression. Hello, my name is Xiang Lu.